Yeah, kind of is until I get an intro video to ease us in. This is going to be an abrupt start of here's some heads. I'm gonna. There we go. I'll hide the ball for the moment. Hey, Alex, how you doing?
Hey, doing good. How are you doing, Alex?
I'm good. I've got my drink. We've got some shit talking to do. It's gonna be great. we've got a James Lindsay banger that we're gonna discuss. Today's
I'd describe this more as a howler.
A howler. Oh, we'll be howling at it. The topic of tonight is what is an American? Matt Walsh asked it. Everybody has an answer.
I mean, I think we've been asking this since we've been having conversations together.
Yeah, I could have just changed the names of this channel to What is an American, and it would fit just as well. Because it's a fascinating country. It's a fascinating nation. Is it a nation? Is it an empire? That's something that I haven't decided on yet because I haven't seen enough evidence one way or the other. I've seen lots of evidence both ways. Are we an ethno-state? It doesn't seem though. I think that one's kind of a little too far gone for that.
I mean, I've made an argument for that, but you know, there's different layers to it.
Right. Well, ethnos like defined as a genealogically ethnic state. Hey, howdy doodly. Yeah. Hey. So that it's complicated. I think we can all agree that it's going to be complicated if you start getting into genetics. Yes, there's a lot of criteria. People have been throwing it around. A lot of people have skin in the game. A lot of them are foreigners, unfortunately. Americans don't really spend a lot of time thinking about themselves. We're not a very self-reflective people. So we're going to spend some time thinking about what is an American really deeply. And we've got one of the deepest thinkers of our time to help us through here. Give us a little something to start with. Maybe critique, maybe just a little bit, just a skosh.
We have well, for the first time in a long time, we have the definition of what is an American.
Oh, and hell yeah.
And Americans are sort of the kings of we'll know it when we see it kind of thing. Like we don't think about it too much because we don't have to. Essentially our commitment to the question is like either entirely pre-rational or post-rational, and like the rational aspect of it is very, very small.
There you go. Yeah, there's no rational about it. You know, it is taste.
Yeah. Wait, and I think it's also partially because, you know, America as a nation is a bit of a technological innovation. It diverges on some standards from historical norms and creates, you know, some differences. It's very hard for the Europoor mind to reconcile with how it's viewed in their world, which is one, the ethnic connection is very, very deep, but for them, like, citizenship is shockingly shallow. Like it blows me away how shallow understanding of citizenship is for Europeans.
Really? Well, let's talk about that maybe later on this cast, because I think Americans have a fairly good sense of duty in terms of what is an American. I mean, I use the example of was it Roy Benavidez? He's a recipient of the Medal of Honor, fought in Vietnam in the secret Laotian War. And I was like, if this guy isn't an American, then I can't talk to you. You know, so this guy is an absolute war hero, 100% American, born and raised in California. It doesn't matter where he's born, though. It's like, who remembers where they're born? I'm technically born in California. I don't know anything about the place.
I was born in California, and up until, you know, my 20s, all my connection was like with the Midwest or Virginia. Like, you know, I still consider myself in my heart of hearts a Virginian.
Really? Nice. That's a good state. Yeah. It's a good state. I'm a Marylander, but that would mean I'm Catholic if I was like really spiritually Marylander. Possibly Italian. All right. But we've got here living
in Maryland or Virginia is kind of funny because there's like DC kind of welds them together into this Springfield Shelbyville fight.
Yeah.
It's a bit of local flavor you only know if you've lived there.
I know, yeah. I'd say the traffic is worse in whichever side you're on.
yeah, that's true. But the police's traffic enforcement is always way more tyrannical in, you know, their dystopian tyranny across the Chesapeake.
Oh, yeah. And by the way, do you know you have to pay tax on your car every year if you're in Virginia?
So if you have a car, I vaguely recall this, and it's gross and dumb.
Yeah, it's really property taxes, like recurring owning stuff taxes sucks. Buying stuff taxes also suck, but it's a little less suck because you could choose to buy something. But yeah, anyways, we got an all-American here though. James Lindsay is going to tell us all what an American is. He's going to tell us stupid people what an American really is. All right, ready to cue this up and talk about it?
And sorry, I gotta.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
I had an IRL distraction coming through. Okay,
IRL distraction. All right, no worries. All right.
What is an American? An American is a citizen of the United States of America. Spiritually.
Okay, so citizen of the United States of America, pretty broad, but straightforward starting point.
There you go.
An American also holds the foundational American belief that self-government is possible and opens the door to greater prosperity for each of us.
Okay, so this is where it starts getting weird. Because now, and before we did this, I asked Grok for, a bunch of like instantiated or hypothetical criteria for, what makes a member of a nation, an ethnicity, a tribe, etc. And what you're the real test if you're American comes in 2.5 hours.
Yeah, what is that? Howdy doodly? That's ominous. That's when the Chinese invade. We got to pick up our bayonets and go ham.
But yeah, so this is interesting, because we've moved from a very clear, like legal criterion, has American citizenship. That's super straightforward.
You got the stamp, boom.
Into now we're jumping past like ethnic or ancestral, cultural or behavioral. Like this is kind of cultural or behavioral, but we're essentially straight into must have American citizenship, must believe in this idea, and like, whoa, we're getting wacky.
Right? How can you quantify that? Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah, sorry. Good.
Guarantee it. It opens the door to it. An American, therefore, has faith in the American dream, thus articulated, and keeps it and keeps his or her end of the covenant that it entails.
Okay, so
using religious language there.
Yeah, religious language. There's a lot of bizarre religious language in this, but it's essentially like, set of ideas elevated to spiritual platform. You need to approach this with spiritual reverence. Like, okay.
I also haven't heard anything. Yeah. Sorry. I also haven't heard anything that's demonstrable yet.
Yeah, exactly. It's not demonstrable. And what just hit me for the first time in something you said is this is like, we know it's in 2.5 hours now.
Oh yeah. I popped that on the screen a little bit ago. Yeah, Cowboys and Eagles.
Are the Cowboys the great Satan for everywhere but Texas?
I know, right? I was gonna make a joke about it's sort of a downtrodden South versus the damn Yankees, but yeah, the Philly Eagles. Yep. I'll hold my tongue on that one. I don't know. I'm not a big sports guy.
Yeah, me either. There's a funny thing in this that just hit me when you responded to that last section is like, it's not demonstrable, it's heavily faith-based, and like this is actually a definition, because what we'll find is that actually James Lindsay reads a lot of people out of being American, and essentially invites nonstop purity spiraling to see whether you're ejected from the tribe or not.
Oh, I see.
But let's keep going because we haven't gotten to the craziest bit yet.
Okay.
And that makes it more than a dream. It makes it a promise.
Okay, so we're in some florid
stuff. And he uses
now.
His American liberty to pursue the dream and the blessings of liberty that are held out in.
Okay, so this is getting a bit more like verifiable. You have to act on it. Like, okay, you have the belief. Like, well, you're taking action, but the action can be like narrativized as tied to a variety of factors.
Right.
But at least it's something like measurability.
Promise for the faithful and responsible citizens who will sacrifice to obtain them. Your participation is necessary. Faith without works is dead.
Yeah, he sort of weaves in a little bit there. A truism, right? Like you're supposed to demonstrate it. So what are the works though of an American, right? Like what are the works?
Right.
So hopefully we'll get to that soon.
Yeah.
You can't believe in the American dream and get rich. You've got to work for it too. An American is a classical liberal in all the regards presented here, who will fight and die if necessary to protect his God-given right to hold this faith in liberty, to keep this covenant and pursue this dream, the dream of the promised returns of the blessings of liberty.
Okay, so this is where the top really blew off of my head. What do you think of this?
Boy, that's a lot of word salad. He's trying really hard to be a pastor right now, but like
it's a chat GPT-ified speech where it's almost sort of predicting, what words should follow others. And like you actually, my experience is, communities that are heavily influenced by, public speaking in church have very strong chat GPT-ification of their public speaking.
Yeah, it's very sophisticated. It's very sophisticated in a bad way. It meanders the point. It's not active. Right. So he's saying, all right, we got to sacrifice and participate in the covenant of the United States, the classical liberalism, right? You have to pursue the dream. We are a classical liberal state. You got to fight for the classical liberalism, which I don't think. By the way, like America is a. For better or for worse, America is like a totally vibe-coded fucking nation. We make a lot of mistakes, and we will just renege on those mistakes, and we'll try to do more of the better things. We're a very experimental nation. People don't like people referring to America as an experiment, but it is an ongoing experiment. It is as you say, is like a piece of technology, and when things aren't functioning right, they change it. Like we scrapped our first government, like we scrapped our first currency.
And we politely don't talk about it or that it was done illegally.
Yeah, exactly. We're just like, we don't want to do it anymore. Fuck it. Well, the thing is, Americans use the legal system when we don't agree. When we do agree, we just do the thing. That's the thing. The only reason that the appeals to the founding fathers have any weight whatsoever is because we still like the founding fathers.
Right.
Right.
Well, that was one of the lightning bolts for me. In like a distinctive, level up in my thinking about ethics and behavior. Is like one of my big focuses in college was Immanuel Kant and really understanding Kantian thought all the way down. And I came out of that fucking hating deontological ethics. Like,
explain that. Yeah, what is deontological ethics?
Deontological ethics is basically rules-based ethics. Must and must nots. And essentially trying to boil down human ethical behavior to a system such that you no longer have to be good, you just have to follow the rules.
Oh yes. Yeah, well, and it's also the rules are compelled. That's what makes them rules. It's not even guidelines of like, hey, if you want to be a good citizen, this is what you do. And once you start making stuff codified, this is actually one of the arguments that Christians have against the Old Testament covenant stuff with God. That's usually why the covenant would fail. You'd have people that follow the covenant and get a really big head about it and think they're holier than thou, right? The rules-based society becomes hierarchical about who enforces the rule. If you want to see this, watch season 4 of Clarkson's Farm, or any season of Clarkson's Farm when he's struggling with the council. People think that he's better. He doesn't belong there. He's not a real farmer. You're not a real. I don't ever want to get in this thing where America is this covenant-based thing where it's like, oh, if you follow the rules, you're more of an American. Right? This stratification of America is much to it always erodes quality.
Right.
I've never seen following the rules actually get you more quality. It tends to get you more gamification.
Right. Exactly.
Rules. Yeah.
Right. And that's one of the problems of deontological ethics is, it gets you gamification. I mean, I think, for example, like contemporary contemporary Jewish religious ethics are basically all deontological and are basically all involved into rules gamification.
Yes.
Particularly around things like the Shabbos and like, why is there a wire that runs basically the entire perimeter of New York City? Oh, it's because it makes the entire of Manhattan. It makes the entire island effectively indoors.
Yes.
Like, you know, like God's gonna fall for that trick. Like,
well, and the thing is,
there's no spirit of the rules.
Right. This is actually, from what I've been told from my Jewish friends, is that since God's word is perfect, any loophole you find in the rules were intended, and he wants you to use them. So that's why you kind of get the lawyerization of. That's why I think that's why a lot of Jews are lawyers, because every Jew.
Right.
I mean, before I think you might have said this backstage or on stage, is like, what's the principal profession of a Jew back in antiquity, like ancient age?
The Israelites. They're traditional. They're traditional, like shepherds and warriors. And like Franz Oppenheimer in the State, I think accurately talks about what leads to the origin of the state in terms of conquest, and it's drovers. It's drovers, shepherds, etc., semi-nomadic people who have a lot of time to pursue war and essentially have to deal with oh crap, we've conquered all these people, now what are we going to do with them?
And
the Israelites, like, and the chosen people for most of their biblical history, warriors. That's what they did.
And
they got like BTFO'd by the first civilization that had really ironclad managed soldiering. To a certain extent is the bureaucratization and mechanization of warfare, and soldiers kick the shit out of warriors when they come into conflict.
Howley Doodley's agreeing. They're like the rules of occasion. I'm saying the new default profession of the Jews now is lawyer. Everyone's a little bit of a lawyer. So they're all. We'll have to discuss this another time, but there's a lot of implications of the mercantilization of the world over the warrior, and how the state, ever since the state started, it was always that the standardization versus the valor, or the gallant valor of a warrior. It's always been one versus the other. Because if you're just a straight up warrior, you're doing one-on-one duels. Maybe you're training a bunch of men, but like once you start having state troops that are given exact directions on how to follow to get victories, like if you do these things, if you maintain this phalanx, you're going to be victorious until the paradigm changes, and you start having like these draft soldiers that are not professional warriors. And the gun was a big part of this. But anyways, we'll talk about the conquest of the merchants. And also, by the way, I consider technologists to be members of the merchant class, or at least an adjacent class. Taking over the world. And so now it's the world, like war is done on the legal sense until it isn't anymore.
I mean, philosophically, the book Shibumi is basically all about this question. It's very much like warrior mindset versus merchant mindset. And it's interesting. Like there's a bunch of political struggles that I no longer take deeply seriously, just by following Chesterton's Fence and realizing how new these things are, and that we're not grappling, like when we look at, modern Republican democracies or like fascism or communism or whatever, people are like, we have to fight the eternal fight against fascism and stuff like that. And it's like, fascism didn't exist until like 92 years ago, or 102 years ago. This is not an eternal form. This is like a 20th century novelty, or like Republican democracy is like, there's precursors in like Greece and Rome, but effectively what we have now is like, an 17th, 18th century novelty. This is like, these aren't eternal things. This is brand effing new and essentially untested technology. Like there's nothing eternal about this. And the way old cultures were run, like what aristocrats and kings were, is essentially a group of ascended warriors who had to take on like essentially double majoring or multi-classing in statecraft in addition to war.
Well, all right. So the statecraft and I'm going to get us back to James Lindsay here in a second, but these are interesting ideas. The statecraft is the permanency. So being an amateur farmer, I'm going to put it in amateur farming terms. What we're describing now, all these new things, like just previous century stuff, we're in a springtime of civilization. And if you ever know what a springtime is really like, it is the most brutal shit you've ever seen. That is when alliances are being made. That is when things are forming. And that is when you find out who is the most destructive. That is when you find springtime is the time of destruction. If you can make it into summer and then fall, you get to find out who could actually raise children, who can actually defend their den, who can actually find food reliably, right? But springtime, when stuff is abundant, is actually when everyone destroys each other. Like all the violence happens in springtime. There's some violence in winter, but that's like the desperate. The rest of the year is kind of this descending level of carnage as things start to fall off at different sections. So at the winter of civilization, you'll end up having this people who are doing really, really well, and then people who have died out. It's the same thing of like more polar cultures tend to be a little bit more forward minded and permanent minded because they're looking towards when things are going to dull out a little bit. That's why I don't mind cycles of relative poverty, and I don't mind bad times. That actually proves to you who has the staying power. Good times is absolutely chaotic. It's when you have all the gods. Every god's there in spring. We'll see which god sticks around in winter. All right, let's get back to the god of James Lindsay here.
Yeah, so I'm going to wind this back just a minute. Sure. We had a really good tangent, but the important thing he says is like, and that's really head popping, is that he makes a very specific claim, and there's that like, well, we'll get into it, but we'll come back to it, but he asserts that you specifically, in order to be an American, need to believe in classical liberalism and be willing to fight and die for it. So let's wind this back in.
Who will fight and die, believe in the American dream and get rich, you've got to work for it too. An American is a classical liberal in all the regards presented here, who will fight and die if necessary to protect his God-given right to hold this faith in liberty, to keep this covenant and pursue this dream, the dream of the promised returns of the blessings of liberty.
Okay. So watching that back, that's a really, really specific claim that you actually need to start asking a bunch of weird questions about.
Well, classical liberalism as presented. Okay. As that,
and what, it's the whatever that movie was, what kind of classical liberal are you?
Exactly. I saw a funny Fourth Turning meme that said, hard times create British philosophers create good times create French philosophers create bad times. I thought that was pretty funny. Okay. Do you want to go forward or discuss some more? The fight and die thing is crazy because it basically says that no women are actually like anybody who's not a combatant. Like, I guess unless you make fight mean like anyone who's going to pick up and be politically involved, but that's also.
I mean, you can be a classical liberal jihadist and fight the jihad of the womb or the jihad of the purse.
Yeah.
But we'll review all his points because he says like classical liberal in all the senses presented here. Again, some get weird. You still have to ask the question, like, what kind of classical liberal are you? Because there's a bunch of types. And like, keep in mind, Rousseau is part of this club.
Yeah.
Or like Thomas Hobbes is part of this club. Can you be a Hobbesian and be an American?
Right. Yeah.
Like Thomas Hobbes is inarguably one of the greats of classical liberalism. He is not a very American thinker.
That's funny. We'll have to talk about that sometime. I'm seeing a lot of vagueness, and I'm saying, all right. So when you see strength and then vague, that tells me it's going insane. Right? There's not a lot of restraint, and there's not a lot of there's low restraint and high and low definition. As the Japanese proverb is like, action without thought is a nightmare. Right? Like He's asking for action, and we haven't really sussed out the thoughts. So maybe in the remaining 2 minutes,
he'll
I
have
some.
Just as a spoiler, what his definition breaks down to in this video is you must be an American citizen. Okay, clear civic or legal definition, and you must agree with James Lindsay. And then it didn't even really click for me on the first couple of watch throughs, but like, you must also be willing to volunteer for James Lindsay's liberal jihad.
That's too funny. All right, let's see let's see him say. Yeah, let's see him say that in not so many words.
His just desserts, equity, and the
actually, this is important.
Returns of the blessings of liberty.
So essentially, you're chasing down the returns of the blessings of liberty. And the last time we talked, we spent a lot of time on the preamble of the U.S. Constitution, and I really highlighted that as an important phrase. But like, he's about to put a twist on it that gets a little weird.
Okay,
his just desserts, equity,
just desserts, and equity.
Just desserts and equity
in the biblical sense.
In the biblical sense,
equity in the biblical sense. I have to do some research. What in God's name is equity in the biblical sense?
What? I'm looking that up right now. I don't hear the word equity a lot in the Bible.
Me either. Well, also just desserts is like if you start to break into ideas of justice and conceptions of justice, the ancient traditions pretty quickly align on, a fair, I think the solved answer of justice, which is you treat equals equally and you treat unequals unequally. Okay. In that sense, essentially everyone gets their just desserts. What's the just dessert of somebody who behaves badly? A corresponding punishment that lines up with the bad behavior. What's the just desserts of someone who invests, frugally and wisely? It's great returns,
And those things are enforced by God. All right, so given a bit of Christian angle here, it's enforced by God typically. Like the judges and such are there to, preside, but the judges are appointed by God, which is why like Europe has a lot of, God appointed the king of England sort of thing, right? America, America, as far as I can understand it, at least our founders and everybody else involved, we do the best we can, but we do leave it up to the people to govern themselves through a system that makes sense. We don't have a God that governs us directly. That's so equity in the biblical sense is like we try. We have a justice system, yes, but it's of the people, right? Anyways, so this is
and there's weirdness that goes on when you make the people your God or your origin of the mandate of heaven or your divine right to rule. That gets squirrely really fast.
Right. Like we're kind of appealing to, in absence of a God appointed ruler, we're asking godly people to use their moral judgment to make decisions. That's not the same as like democratization of whatever we want, hungry hippo democracy. At least it shouldn't be that way. There's a certain level of trust you have to have with the citizens. But when we start going into this classical liberal jihad, it starts to fall apart pretty quick. Anyways.
Yeah, wait, and it's worth highlighting that like biblical equity, like are you referring to like metaphysical equality that all men are made in the image and likeness of God? Because like that's actually and Carl makes the point that one of liberalism's sources of its problems is it attempts to harmonize liberty and equality, which are fundamentally opposed.
Yes.
And essentially the conception by which this is done usually is by asserting metaphysical equality of man, but not practical equality, because freedom will destroy equality and vice versa. If you're made in the image and likeness of God, like, okay, you're metaphysically, spiritually should be regarded as a human being, but you can also be regarded in parallel by
Mhm.
what your just desserts are, what your actions yield, and what would be an appropriate correction for doing something which transgresses against others. And this is such a weird turn of phrase. Like, one, if James because James Lindsay is a specific words guy, and like maybe he's chat GPT-ifying out here in a preacher style way, but like, okay, you said just desserts.
Yeah, what does that mean? I don't know.
I mean, we can take a common sense understanding of just desserts, but he may well have a special meaning for it.
He may well. Well, the thing is, he studied the woke
weird
so
thing
long
is,
that yeah, go ahead.
If you say just desserts, just desserts actually, manages the whole realm of, of an understanding of justice in antiquity. Okay, done. Why would you say another thing? And then why specifically would you say equity?
Right.
And not equality in the biblical sense, knowing that equity is a trap word? Why would you say that?
That's what I'm thinking. Is he co-opting language? Because he plays the language wars of trying to because the linguistic framework is a battleground, right? You could take control of words. This is why I'm not against taking words from the left. If you can redefine them in the popular sense. Like a word is just a marketing term. It's a marketing product. It's a brand name. So what's the brand name equity? Equity TM. What does that mean? Why is he using it? Because right now that's a poo-poo word. That's a word that we throw rocks at right now. So why is he trying to steal it? Is he trying to take it? Is he trying to take it back? Or is he, I don't know. Anyways, okay.
All right. Yeah, let's soldier on.
And to do so against any post-liberal interference from left or right.
Any post-liberal interference? What if they're right? What if there's Reuben's got a point?
No, yeah. And we have to get into the post-liberalism thing. And like you said in the pre-show, commitment to classical liberalism as a perfected and godlike, ideological state is like it progress. Like if you make the present perfect, then progress is impossible without making things worse. Like that's a nutso thing to say for a variety of reasons.
I would love to understand. By the way, my secret dream is I have a trailer park full of PhDs, and I'm just like, all right, you guys don't have to pay any rent or anything. You're free to do whatever you want with your spare time. But like a good slave master, I need you to write a couple of different dissertations here and there. One of those dissertations that I want to know, how did American liberty change from 1776 to now? How did that definition change? And you'll see massive wide swings. It's not strictly anti-biblical or strictly anti-classical liberal in whichever framing you want to have of classical liberal for me to own slaves. Yeah, they created. I mean, if you want to say created equal, it's like, okay, that's fine. I'll just take debt, like debtors. It's just a punishment for debt. You owe somebody a debt, they get to auction off the your contract, and you get to work on my farm for 10 years. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, nothing wrong with that from a classical liberal sense at the time, but we changed our definition. I can't actually have slaves. I have instead student athletes or student debt holders. That's the closest thing you get.
Right. Or you have H-1Bs who are extremely pliant and absolutely dependent on you and won't rock the boat.
That's true. Yeah. Is that classical liberal? Like we're presented with tremendous challenges every day. Americans very rarely, if you actually look at the sum total of discourse, it's becoming more and more rare to actually refer back to what the founding fathers meant. Because I think right now we're, to use an old phrase, America is going through a moral awakening where it's deciding for itself what is right and what is wrong, rather than constantly saying what would the founding fathers do, because that's a very low agency and dependent place to be in. It's also a covenant. Like now you have to play inside the rules that was set by the founding fathers, and then gamify or reinterpret the rules of, say, the Constitution, which is something that people do all the time.
Right. Look at the history of late 19th century, early 20th century progressivism, and how progressivism influenced the legal culture in the United States. You know, it's a sort of perpetual rules-based casuistry, you know, to twist blood from the stone and get the words to say what you want, whether they have any relation to the meaning of the words or not.
Yeah. There's nothing legal about like the Battle of Athens, by the way, which was a thing that upheld democracy in Tennessee. Like it was just people who picked up arms against the police department to demand a proper and fair counting of votes. We shouldn't tie our hands behind our back, because as Howley Doodley is probably going to enjoy this, is that there is a certain, you have to chimp out a little bit. Sometimes it's the right answer to do, right? And if we're all following the legal framework, then we're going to end up in a Byzantine bureaucracy. And sometimes you have to just take a risk, blow up a Venezuelan boat full of drugs, and just see where everyone falls on the spectrum of opinion. And you know, maybe people will freak out. I mean, Trump also like our current president, Donald Trump, he will change his mind based on popular sentiment.
Yeah.
And you don't have to chimp out too much. You just have to like boo a little bit consistently. And that's where the politics are going to go. So there's public sentiment, a democratization of that on that sense. But like, following the rules isn't the sum total of the United States, I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. And there's historical ebbs and flows in interpretation of the rules, development of the rules, you know, twisting of the rules, pushing the limits, et cetera, et cetera. Like you actually have to be very attentive to where your norms and customs come from, you know, because if you take them all as God-given and like contiguous of, you know, the same tradition rather than manufactured, you know, you'll be doing a lot of things that are at cross purposes.
Yeah, absolutely. I flash these things on the screen sometimes just so like people can read them. But like, America uses whatever tool it's got. We're a very fluid nation, and we're a very, despite what the guys in the Lotus Eaters in the UK would say, we're actually a very sentimental nation.
Very.
Yeah. So, all right, let's see what James's sentiment is.
Yep.
Thus, the Americans are the citizens of the greatest, freest, most prosperous, and most righteous nation that has ever existed on the earth.
I'm just gonna like grammatically distinguish here. This is not necessarily what is an American. This is a consequence, he claims, of, you know, his definition of American being propagated forward.
It's trying to appeal to our gratitude for what we have today. However, a lot of Americans have done stuff that is very non-classical liberal. Yeah, we do a lot of non-classical liberal stuff. We'll march armies on our own citizens. Sometimes. Sometimes we'll just start wars because we want to.
Yep. But this is an interesting, and like, you know, I probably have to go track down whenever he releases it, the full version of this video to understand the audience context. But if I was presenting a what is an American, and thus, you know, like what does this enable? The collections of words I might use, like, greatest probably in there, freest, maybe.
Depends on your behavior.
Prosperous, I mean, like some of these are conditional.
It was never,
most righteous certainly would not be on my list.
Oh yeah, no. By the way, as a Christian, it's funny to frame America as a Christian nation because you get a lot of non-Christian things that you'd have to denounce. And a Christian saying that they are most righteous is a very puritanical.
Right.
I think looking back in history would say is a very non-Christian movement. It was a co-opting of Christianity to create a Byzantine rules-based system of purity, which cannot be achieved on earth. Right. So saying that if someone pulls up a sword and says this is a righteous war, I'm like, we hope. It's like we pray. Yeah. We might be making a mistake. It's possible. Probably not. Maybe this is a really righteous war. It makes a lot of sense. Like, no, I don't. A Christian is always in doubt, I guess. Yeah. So Christians don't tend to use very absolutist language.
Epistemic humility, and like an example of a righteous war, like, you know, the Europeans spent a long time developing things like just war theory or really diving into the validity of casus belli.
Yeah.
The Crusades were like Crusades 1, 2, 3 were very painstakingly established as righteous. Like essentially we've got no choice here. And we would be sinners if we did nothing. But like righteousness is such a it's so contingent on humility and your own conduct that that's just as a national trait, righteousness. I don't know.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna leave it on that one. But I'm gonna say here that Howdy Doodly gave me a bit of inspiration. I wouldn't mind a study of American dissent in all the forms that it takes, because Americans also do what is it called when you comply with the rules, but you do so in a very destructive manner?
Oh, malicious compliance.
Malicious compliance. That's my favorite. Way of defiance. Anyways, all right, let's see.
All right.
What is an American? Americans
Oh, good. Thank you for reminding us what we were talking about. It got wild there.
Are a faithful people with regard to the blessings of liberty.
Thankful.
Okay, so this is a new definition or a re-summarization, or putting in different words the original definition.
Okay.
Americans are a faithful people. Who's it? Faithful people, blessings.
Are a faithful people with regard to the blessings of liberty.
Okay.
Faithful people in regards to the blessings of liberty. Faithful to our blessings. This is the thing I have with James Lindsay. I feel like he's worshiping liberty itself, right? I think I said that in the reply to what you posted there on the bottom of your page. There is that he's worshiping the liberty itself, and not what originated that, and not the spirit of what created the concept of liberty. And if you start worshiping liberty itself, you find yourself frozen, right? Unless you're able to go back to some first principles.
Mm-hmm.
And your first principles are sentiment to something. Well, obviously he wants us to be sentimental to the blessings of liberty, but the blessings are not what give you the blessings.
Yeah. He's falling this particular segment seems to be falling prey to means ends confusion. You say, he's worshiping the blessings of liberty, and this is sort of why I hung on the preamble last time so much. And a crucial question to ask of political systems or political ends is, okay, and what does that make available? But to what end? Is because if you ask this enough times, you'll get to the metaphysical finishing point of the underlying philosophy. Sort of what is its axiom spun all the way forward.
Okay.
And you ask, okay, but to what end, or what does that make available to a Marxist or something like that? And what you arrive at without variation is the destruction of distinction in being. One of the things about the U.S. Constitution and this whole blessings of liberty thing is it's liberty ain't an end, bro. Liberty is a means. And why is the Constitution instantiated to secure all these things like common defense, blessings of liberty, mutual welfare? I forget what it is. Why is it instantiated to do all these things? It's because ends are indeterminate and self-appointed is you push on it. You push on this line of argumentation, and that's what you land on. It is essentially a godless democracy. Because ends are indeterminate, which is fine. And I think I was thinking about Dave Green saying a Christian nation would abolish the Constitution as heresy. I'm
what?
I can kind of see it, but I also don't think that's right. Essentially that taking indeterminate ends violates certain theological worldviews.
This is what I hate about theologians, by the way, is they get really complicated and very, very sure of their complications.
Right.
And I was like, you don't have to create. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
This is also James Lindsay being a bit of a theologian, although, like, I mean, he is in effect using a lot of like theological language, but this is just like ideology, the ideological worship of liberalism and liberty per se. It's a distinct variation from how libertarians do it, but it's nonetheless like weird and ideological.
I will say this, that a lot of atheists that do not have a good grounding in philosophy and a good respect for different perspectives tend to become end worshipers. Whereas I think Christians, people who believe in God with their full heart, are not trying to reach an end. They have faith that the end will be proper if their methods are righteous. So they tend to be more about methods, and the form of how you should conduct yourself versus where you're supposed to end up. That's why America tends to be very much non-institutional and very organic in how it organizes. Like, we give the most to charity, but the charity is given by just individuals. We don't organize it as like some national thing, and it offends the American senses to do so.
It used to offend the English senses to do so as well.
Yeah, they abandoned God eventually, I think. I don't know. I don't think giving to charity is something you should ever talk about. As a proper Christian.
Yep. Just a note on Howdly Doodly. I think there's a sense in which America can be conceived of as a godless country, and I don't think it actually relies on God. At least in the argumentation it lays out. Being a having had to have read a lot of Kant, and he does, the language here is a little bit loaded. The terms are not as commonly understood, but after meditating on them for a long time, I think you can essentially take them for a shortcut as commonly understood. Kant makes the argument that thought itself requires you to presuppose God in order to be consistent, and I think he's right.
That's why you see some of these godless people able to be talked into circles. And I also think that, to quote you on previous streams, is that most people do not have the faculties to understand the philosophical groundwork that would give you a godless constitutional America. Like, God is the fastest and, I would argue, the best way to get there. But I also don't think that belief is a choice.
Yeah,
I think you have to be compelled to belief by something beyond your control. So I don't shit on atheists too much. So
well,
and that's what I'm saying. How do we do it does work smoother? Yeah,
I'll shit on atheists too much, if anything, and I'm an atheist, and I find them disgusting and cringe.
What's the arrogance? It's the arrogance, which is like the first sin. Really, the original sin is pride, and that's the sin of Satan. It is. I would agree here with. I think we both might agree is that there should be a standard template to go through tremendous amounts of education. Is too much to ask most people on Earth. You have to have a solution that appeals to both 85 IQ and 165 IQ. Right? Like you can't have a thing that's only 140 plus or something like that, or whatever the IQ happens to be. And also the amount of non-biasing that you have to use all those IQ points, because you do get docked for IQ points if you have a personal bias. Because they'll just start ignoring facts, and you can see a lot of people out there being stupid, even though they're very smart, for certain subjects.
And any system you put together is I probably need to develop language to describe this more cleanly or articulately, but the domain of mythology or mythos that your country runs on, or that a set of ideas or practices runs on, needs to actually be richly developed in not just the rational domain, but the pre and post rational domain, which sounds really weird to develop a concept outside of the domain of rationality, but that's just the case. You don't get the 85 IQ and the 160 IQ without actually essentially having deep quasi cognition in both those areas, in addition to your rational articulation.
That's an interesting thought. Yeah, we might end up doing a show about cognition and decent society and philosophy. And anyways, I our philosopher right here, James Lindsay, has more to say. I'm curious what he has to say next.
Yes, he do. Yeah, we thought this would take 15 to 30 minutes, and we're at like 49.
49 minutes. Yeah.
Let's work through this because a lot of it is rearticulation. But we're back at essentially restating the definition of America is faithful in this ideological sense.
But we recognize that it is a covenant that we must uphold and participate in. So we are responsible and we are practical. And just as we see in the Old Testament book of Numbers.
Okay, so now we're skipping to analogy. So we're on a digression.
All right, let's see what it is. Let's see what a digression is.
So it's essentially an ideological definition. He's insisting on works, but the works are kind of indefinite, and you should be evincing the softly sensible virtues of responsible and practical. I will just say that practical does not logically follow on from anything he said.
Okay, let's all right, yeah.
You can be impractical and pursue these things, like James Lindsay.
Oh yeah.
When we wander in the desert, and things are not going so well, and we have been given miracle after miracle from the blessings of liberty so far, and we doubt and lose our faith and wish to go back to the slavery and captivity of Egypt so we can have our cucumbers, then we also forfeit those blessings of liberty and shall not be permitted to enter into the promised land. It is not for us if we are faithless. And
is it just me, or need to replace the name of God with liberty?
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. This has become idolatry at some point, which, by the way, if these are Christians in the audience, they should start freaking the fuck out. They should start going, this is a good time for chimping. The chimping must begin. I'd play my arms like this and just go, I'm chimping. This is like you replace God.
It's also the chat GPTification of words, because it's not just public speaking where you chat GPTify things. Your brain also chat GPTifies things.
I'm gonna look up a scripture. What scripture is he quoting?
I mean, this is in the desert, golden calves and all that, or wanting to go back.
Hadley Dooley is a major chimp enthusiast.
Yes.
Good God. I'm trying to. All right. I might have to dig up the scripture. Wilderness Wanderings Part 2. I don't know. We'll find out. All right. I'm gonna look at stuff for a second, but feel free.
You see how this is a howler, right? What
the fuck is going? I'm gonna lose my shit. All right. So when I got to this part, when you sent this to me originally and you asked me to watch it, and I was watching it and I just glazed over, and then I saw I immediately picked up when he started replacing the blessings of liberty. What he's done is he took the preamble of the Constitution and used that as a way to substitute it in to the Bible and not cause a freak out. Right? People believe in the Declaration of Independence in the Constitution, right? And they believe in the Bible. So if I can get them to accept a substitution of one for the other, it's a good way for me to sneak it in.
Right.
Yeah.
James Lindsay will probably protest this endlessly. But this is actually a bait and switch that Karl Marx pulls all the time.
Well, he's read a lot of Marx. He's read a lot of woke stuff. So his brain is going to start working in that faculty, right?
I think he has carved some neural pathways that may make him predisposed to thinking in this way. By the way, just as an introductory text to the thinking of Marx and how his language tricks work, and to watch, to train you to be a careful reader, and two, to see how these kinds of tricks work and to see them in the open, read Karl Marx's On the Jewish Question. It is not what you would expect. And what Marx defines as Jew, he uses one word for most of the text and smuggles in another and plays on equivocations. But you're right, James Lindsay is playing on equivocations here. And it reminds me of Marx.
Oh dear.
Also, on the Jewish Question, by the way, is the keystone to understanding Marxian thinking. If you read that, you can predict everything he's ever going to say.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's insane. 1 second. For some reason, my video decided to make me extremely pale. And I do not know why. Because I just muted my video for like a hot minute. So I'm going to go in and mess with some settings and figure out what the hell is going on. Oh, right. Okay. There you go. It put me on the wrong camera. It put me on my crappy camera.
All right. Shall we resume Mr. Lindsay and hopefully close out this 3-minute video before the hour's up?
Yeah. Let's do it.
If we are actionless and if we are irresponsible.
All right. I'm going to wind that back because this is on his.
It is not for us if we are faithless and if we are actionless and if we are irresponsible.
So, chosen land, that greatest, freest, most prosperous, most righteous nation on earth, not for you if you don't do these things. Like, not just believe them, but also don't subscribe to the jihad.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this is really tying. This is really tying the. It's presupposing the fruits of it, the blessings, right? The fruits of the blessings. It's presupposing that you're going to get these things, and if you don't do these things, you don't deserve it, and it starts to become a cargo cult of liberty, and that's what I don't want to happen.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's like reasonable kind of like something that approximates presuppositions. Something I said like around our one civilization conversation or around the principle of accretion. The natural trajectory of humans when left to their own devices is up and to the right. Just because we make stuff, it's not inevitable. But our trajectory, at least in the vitality, like in our vital years, is to make and set aside more and accumulate more physical wherewithal. And like, that's a physical descriptive statement. It's not proscriptive. Here it's being elevated to, a metaphysical proscriptive statement.
Are people who understand this and live this. This is my call back to faith in America. Thank you.
I mean, it sounded real pretty with them words, but okay, am I supposed to go out and do something now?
Right. Well, I mean, you're supposed to sign up for the liberal jihad.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Which means what, right? Like, okay, so in other words, yeah, I see what you're saying now is that an American is whoever agrees with James Lindsay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And what's really important about this too, by the way, and where I want to get into going through some criteria and actually focusing on defining what is an American. There's so much that's left out there, but what's really, really important is like this reads a lot of people out of being Americans.
Yeah.
Howdly doodly. Sorry, you're not American, buddy. I'm not American, even though honestly, like, there's nowhere else I could be from.
Like, what is the fight for classical liberalism too? So if I disagree on any classical liberal axioms, I'm all of a sudden a bad person. Like which axioms too? But I mean, let's say that Americans dissent quite a bit. Only two is like, the American question, like, what is an American? The fact is, the American's a fairly, as we said before, like, it's a pretty feels-oriented thing. It's a very vibe-coded thing. And one when you see one. Mm-hmm. I think that you and I could probably come up with a better definition of an American on the rest of this stream. Yeah. Because it's not that hard. It's just the thing is you have to be humble and not make it whatever you want it to be. Right.
Yeah. There's an old saying where if your political coalition has enough influence and sway and size to win national elections, your political coalition is always going to include people whose guts you cannot stand.
Yeah.
It's going to include people that you hate to death.
Yes.
Likewise, your definition of your countrymen is going to have to include some people who have some serious intra-tribal rivalry or even maybe hatred for you. I mean, like, Say what you will about the blue-haired leftist, they're still an American, and your definition has to be inclusive of them. And your definition of American also has to incorporate a golden bridge.
What's also funny is that sometimes you could argue that those blue-haired liberals who are crazy are fighting for classical liberalism.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, I think Carl Benjamin makes that argument all the time. I'm not fully persuaded by it.
No,
but,
me neither.
But it's certainly an argument that is pursuable and pursuable with it has more veracity to the claim than even the claims of the blue-haired liberals,
Right. And I'm starting a list here. I'm going to see if we can start a list. Let's see.
Yeah.
There's the notepad document. If I widen
I got to pee like a racehorse. So how about you give your
I'm going to get started.
I was kind of guiding us through that. So give us your blow by blow on that and what you came away with. I'll follow along while
we'll get you a YouTube issued catheter very soon. Don't worry.
Oh my God. I need to move winter's coming up. I can move my streaming setup outside and smoke.
Oh hell yeah. That's awesome. Oh
actually,
yeah, that's great.
YouTube has a big problem with you smoking on
really
videos. Yeah.
I want to smoke a cigar in a video. That sucks. Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. All right, Norris. All right. There we go. Okay. So what is an American? The first thing we said here is definitely blue-haired leftist. I'm just kidding. I want to start with, if you want to win an election, right? Americans love winning elections. It's what we do. It's been here since the start. And you have to stomach people whose guts you hate. So there is a level of tolerance of opposition. And that sounds bad, right? Opposition should be crushed. If you ever watched my video about rules for radicals, go and check it out. It is actually pretty foundational in how you should deal with enemies, opposition, neutrals, friends, and allies. Opposition is actually not a bad thing. Opposition sharpens you. Enemies are a completely different thing, right? Tolerance of opposition. If you want to win an election, you have to tolerate opposition. In fact, I'm going to make that a subheading, right? So the real thing is, can win the plurality of the voter. Tolerance of opposition is important then, okay? The ability to sell a position to the voter, right? Okay, so yeah, likes football, and not that gay European football. And this actually I'm going to put here, cultural integration. You will see time and time again from Donald Trump to Vivek Ramaswamy. You're going to see people, even Democrats have to do this, is where they have to demonstrate that they integrate with the culture. Right. And that's actually one of the main faults of Democrats right now, is they're trying to redefine the culture. But the American culture is very difficult to redefine. The culture is whatever the people think. So there is actually aspects of meta democracies. Oh, I'm just making shit up now, but it sounds pretty good. All right. We're going to say the voting. Okay. Voting is a form of democracy. It's kind of the most direct. It's not really meta, right? Voting is the end result. Cultural democracy. What do we culturally tolerate? Okay. This is voted with dollars and people. All right. So cultural meta democracies. There is, I would say, visceral. And this is actually fear, anger, love. This is the vibes. This is the vibes democracy. You could have the most pro-American position. By the way, the vibes democracy, I'm going to make this a little wider. Vibes democracy is actually best demonstrated with Nixon v. Kennedy, where the video of the debate was a determining factor of who thought who won, right? Nixon won the radio debate, but JFK won the video debate. And it was entirely visceral. The meta democracy of America has to cater to the vibes and visceral nature of the human being, right? Okay. As ladies would call it, the ick. Okay. What other meta democracies are there? We have the actual voting. There's cultural. I mean, honestly, there's monetary. Okay. That's a meta thing. Like, obviously, donors make a big difference. By the way, when I say meta democracy, I mean this is what affects the end result of the democracy indirectly. Like, it's what drives it. Like, theoretically, you could have everybody get up and vote for the most disgusting, foreign, underfunded candidate. It's not going to happen, right? It's not going to happen. We all know that's not going to happen. So, these things that are American are actually kind of determined by America. This is what I'm kind of trying to say, is like Americans are, what do you call it? And are initiated, not created. This is the point I have, is if you have someone who is a heritage American, Mayflower lineage, but they're a dirty, fat, acne-ridden communist, we're probably not going to think of them as much of an American. Yeah, so Cosma from the bio breaker that he's on is an American contingent on also being part of a democratic political system. Good question. I would say it is not really a democratic system, but just a plurality, because you have small pockets of Americans that will accept you. Right? I am not an acceptable American in California, Portland, Oregon, or anything else, right? What I'm saying is that these are the aspects. I'm using democracy as a lossy proxy. Yeah, and he says strongly not, right? I'm using democracy as a lossy proxy for what I'm going to say, that Americans are initiated, not created. Inducted by Americans. A heritage that is handed down. Yes. So, and by the way, I love arguments on this stream. I'm going to wait for Cosmo to come back, so I'm just going to complete my thought, and then Cosmo will have the floor to rebut it without my interruption. Wanted to honor the ideals and culture, part of being a bit. Yeah. Sorry about that. Wanting to honor ideals and culture is part of it. Be it Mayflower lineage or stepping off the boat yesterday. Yes. If you have a traitor who is a Mayflower lineage person, they're considered lesser of an American. Ideals and culture. That's an interesting concept, right? Because ideals are the sort of transcendent metaphysics of how we treat each other, right? Treat each other and treat ourselves, and how we conceive of a nation. Because it takes a lot of people to make a nation, which is why I have a propensity towards democracy, because it takes a plurality of people to make a nation. Now, people have argued that 3% is actually all you need to sway an entire nation, an organized 3%, right? That's okay. I understand that, but they do have to work on these meta levels. Yeah. You were muted, by the way.
Yep.
No worries. Let me see if I can finish my thought. That Americans are initiated, not created. Heritage is handed down. We are decentralized, and this is the part where I'm maybe we'll start to meet with you halfway. Decentralized definitions. In other words, localists. As I was saying before, like an American of Portland, Oregon is not going to be the same as an American of Nashville, Tennessee. Or rural Tennessee, for that matter, right? Like, if you said, "Hey, that blue hair is not an American," half the country is going to agree with you, and the other half is going to agree with you, and then the very small enlightened few that understand the sort of metaphysics of what makes American are going to agree with you. We agree that everybody is, but you have to appeal to your locals, your locality. So yes, I am ready to hear your bit.
Yeah, just on the democracy bit, and then I'll get into some of my Grok criteria, which I think are useful.
Oh, good.
But on the meta democratic stuff, and why I'd insist being American does not have a contingent of participating in a democratic system is, let's say we as all Americans, accepting a soft, we know it when we see it and we all buy in, hold a new constitutional convention. and decide on a new in order to form a more perfect union. And this gets accepted and ratified by all the states, and it is no longer democratic.
Okay. Yes,
would this change what an American is? All of us having together ratified it. I mean, what an American is changes over time anyways. Like, we're not the same Americans that we were once were, but like the continuity of what an American is, could theoretically shift to abandon participation in a democratic system, and yet the people would remain.
That's interesting. I'm going to just change a word here. Is like, not change a word, but add something like, what I'm saying is, would it be populist and populist localist or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like what we're saying is that you need
remembered kings, and like the most fondly remembered kings tend to be populist or allies of the common people.
In other words, okay, here's a fun idea is I had the other day of like, what if we had immigration determined by a jury? Like in other words, it takes Americans to make you an American.
Yeah. Well, the same rule would apply that applies today to criminal proceedings, which is don't trust a DC, New York, or California jury.
Oh, right. That's what I'm saying. Well, by the way, it's kind of a fun thing is that you'd have you'd have to have started this system at the very beginning, first off. But I mean, would not, who has the right to say what is an American, right? Like who has, and I don't mean that as a rhetorical sense, it's like who actually does? That's a tough question. Yeah, that's what I'm saying is like, who has the right participation Yeah. So there's a civic element.
There's a civic element, but there's also a custodianship or stewardship element that Benign Number Station is highlighting here, which is absolutely correct. There are multiple ways to participate in an American identity or being part of the American polis or body politic. That are not explicitly democratic.
Can I blast the UK for a hot second? I'm gonna blast their shit out. Sorry, Samson, if you're watching, but guys, you keep bitching about who you can vote for and who you can't vote for. It takes more. A democracy is not just voting, okay? All right, so it takes promotion, it takes fundraising, it takes outreach, like knocking on doors. Do you understand how much trouble went into electing Donald Trump a second time after a non-contiguous term? Like he lost his incumbency and then came back. That has only happened one time before in American history. It took a shitload of work. It's not just, oh, he appeared on the ballot. I'm so happy there's the perfect white knight to save us on the ballot. He just sort of magically appeared there. It's like, no, it takes years and years and years of prep to get a presidential, any candidate who's going to make a damn bit of difference. Okay. So everybody here is like, oh, democracy is a sham because there are metaphysics to the democracy, like monetary. You got to have someone who actually appeals like on a visceral level. You have to have someone who's cultural. Here's just like just straight up marketing. I'm just going to put marketing on here. Like, and this is to represent you. And the thing is what you want. And the reason why there's a mirror image of your representatives and your population. There's a saying that you get the government you deserve, right? Yeah. To become an American is almost a little bit like becoming the American president in a lot of the same ways, is that you have to appeal in a lot of the same manner. Like you have to taste good for America to sort of like consume you and integrate you. If you don't taste good, Americans aren't going to like you, and they're not going to know why. They're just going to reject you. You're not going to be a candidate even considered, right? So, like, if you want a presidential candidate or any candidate for that matter, a ton of work goes into it. And if you think democracy is a sham, I was like, I don't think a lot of English people are fully dialed into their politics, and I don't know if they have the sort of ground game and proper populist uprising that America had. Like Americans Americans lost family members, friends, jobs over politics. Like some of them went to jail. It's just Like what? Anyways, so that's what I'm saying is like democracy only works if you make it work, and your civic systems only work if you make them work. So like when it comes to your citizens, who are you reaching? And like you said here, the retards in blue cities running the juries to bring people in as immigrants. It's like, why aren't you reaching the retards in the blue cities?
Mm-hmm.
America thrives on its retard vote. How did we lose these retards? Don't ask why the retards oppose us. Ask what do we do to lose them?
Yeah. And like I think that picking on the English actually gives a great example too. I think you would be hard pressed to find someone who is more clearly an Englishman than Jeremy Corbyn.
Oh, really? Because he's
I think you would genuinely have, if you go by a sensible definition of what is an Englishman, you would have a hard time finding somebody more English than Jeremy Corbyn.
We should definitely do a stream where it's like
he has a lot of ideas that would destroy the English polity and the English people.
Right. So he's a quintessential, but also detrimental.
Yeah, your countrymen can be detrimental and can be detrimental to, the culture, tradition, stewardship, etc. Like on some level, you have to accept these people. Or not. You don't have to accept their conduct, but you do have to accept that they're a part of you.
Your politician is a bit of an avatar of the populace.
Yeah.
And
there's a great Robert Frost poem. It's quite long, so I won't endeavor to read it. But it's called The Star Splitter.
Okay.
I would advocate, if you are listening to this, go out and have yourself a read.
Okay. I'm pulling it up now. I'm just taking a look at it. It is a long one, but
yeah.
All right. We should do a poetry analysis, by the way. That'd be kind of fun.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that was like one of the cornerstones of my education. I love it. I'm here for it. And like, spoiler alert, one of our upcoming streams is going to be an analysis of Bram Stoker's Dracula, because there is much in that novel that is worth reflecting on deeply.
I'm looking forward to going through it. We should also have a stream at some point. And this is the one I think we'll invite Samson on. Is that we'll have a stream of what is an Englishman versus an American, and we're going to use each other as a contrast and a comparison. Like what are the similarities and what are the differences? Because we're obviously very different,
right?
I get into a lot of trouble with ethno nationalists or whatever, ethno conservatives, because I'm like, no, the English are not Americans and the Americans are not English. We are two foreign peoples, and you're going to have to just start from the beginning.
Right.
An Englishman,
It'd be interesting to see, because I made the assertion that America technologically as a government system and as a self-conception for a people is kind of an innovative technology. So it would be interesting to see, how the criteria differ.
Right.
And here's the thing, in how America is technologically constituted versus how England or Britain is technologically constituted. I think Britain is probably a bit more constituted like America than it is like England. But how these things are technically made up, we probably will have different criteria, and both are valid technologies.
Right.
And this is one of the reasons why I'm very insistent. Like, the British shouldn't insist that we be more like them, and we shouldn't insist that they be more like us.
Well, I think we're antithetical, which is why, I made the video Anathema, is that we tend to have foundationally, we have different ways of organizing our civilization that are mutually destructive. And I haven't really gone into detail about how the European mindset destroys America, but it absolutely does, because it will introduce so much war and chaos into America. Like, we don't need it. Yeah. We actually had a pretty good thing in the 90s. I know they think that it's like, oh, it'll destabilize just on its face. I was like, it took a tremendous amount of work to destabilize the race relations in America. And if you look at like black versus white, like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of friction, but like it completely whitewashes the friction between the Anglos, Scots, Irish, the Scots-Irish, the Italians, the Polish. Like these are all different ethnic groups. The Irish, the Catholic Irish, right? Like these groups were cataclysmic to civilization in America, and we just made it work. We eventually just made it work. Like we've integrated far more than we've had deintegration, and it took a lot of effort on academia and culture to deintegrate and politics to deintegrate blacks and whites.
It was a hard game.
Yeah, but to make a multi-ethnic society in Europe is actually very destructive to the identity of Europeans.
Yeah,
right. Like I think like there should be a quarter, right? Like you know how you have the French Quarter in cities, like you have this area that's just designated.
Or Chinatown.
Yeah, exactly. Like, but the Chinese are funny because they,
you know, you're in heritage American country when your town has a German town.
Yeah,
that's an old ethnic partition to have, and most places don't have Germantown.
I'll tell you one thing: a lot of Germans were trying to get away from Germany when they had the chance. Like the Amish are 100%. Like the Amish are nearly 100% German, I think. And they're at least and they're culturally definitely 100% German. They are not. They are very anti-Anglo.
I don't know. You're kind of talking about speciation, and I don't think the Germans would recognize the Amish as Germans on anything other than just sanguinis.
Right, genetic level. That's what I'm saying. Is though
right. They've culturally speciated.
Absolutely. No, they've culturally speciated, and what's fun is that when you have cultures moving away from each other geographically, you get time capsulization. Which is why like my family is an like English boarding school educated Victorian stock, and a lot of the attitudes of my family are Victorian, where it's like we actually poo-poo over reading. You shouldn't read too much. You should just do your vocation. We're very ardent bookkeepers. There's a lot of weird stuff that's like made me, and I was a complete foreigner in America, despite the fact that my mom's American, because I just didn't get along with anybody. And I realized that when I was a kid, I wasn't really a kid. I didn't have a childhood per se. I was just a young adult. I was like, I want to work and form a family. I'm also 12 years old.
Yeah, you're a kid in the same way that that kids are in medieval art. They're just adults drawn at a smaller scale.
Correct. Yeah, that's exactly what I was like. I hated children when I was a kid. I was like, this place. I only collected Pokemon cards because I was trying to participate in the stock market. Formed impromptu. I got rinsed, by the way. Dude,
it's a tough commodities market.
Yeah, it's unpredictable. You gotta be one. You can't be in a fast moving market. You got to be in a slow moving market, or else you're just a gambler. Anyways, my family of Irish stock was all the way back. Call myself an American, no qualifier because exactly. Yeah, we're removed. Like exactly. The Amish would call themselves 100% American.
Right. And this is. Go ahead, please.
And I was going to say, like they refer derogatorily to other people as English, but I think I need to learn more about the Amish. But I think the reason why they do that is because the English want to move fast. It is that is a common thing among all English colonization and the English imperial culture is they want stuff done now. And your work, Protestant work ethic. Yeah, we got the factory. We didn't churn out more widgets.
I mean, that's a fun artifact. Like in Japan, physics is still called Dutch studies.
Really?
Yeah.
That's too funny. Yeah, all right. I'm just reading to the chat. So you guys are great. Yeah. So an American is very contemporary, right? Like the definition changes quite a bit.
Yes, it does and has.
Yes. Like before, it would be unthinkable to be Catholic in America unless you're in Maryland. And now we more or less they're just another denomination of Christian. As we would be
unthinkable to be a Quaker and be a New Englander.
Yeah. It would be unthinkable to be a Mormon and be alive.
Right. and Quakers had this thing to like try and flaunt the moral hypocrisy of the Puritan order in like public displays of like they'd go into a Puritan congregation at church and walk naked up and down the aisles, and then they'd usually be whipped behind a cart for several counties.
Really? Was that to prove that like God's form is not profane or something like that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, okay. Damn, I thought the Quakers were just anti-war. Turns out they're pro being butt-ass naked.
Yeah, the Quakers are such a radical sect of Christians, and like we grew up with them, my main therapist when I was a teenager was like an ardent Quaker, and it was really interesting with him to talk with him about like
That's really funny.
his theology and distinctive slice of the culture. But yeah, Quakers are way radical than we give them credit for. We only don't think of them as radical because they're our radicals.
To add to your number station, I believe there was 2 signers of the Declaration of Independence that were Catholic. Not to one up you on that one. I think that's what I've been told. Please research that and comment here. I would appreciate your help. But small populations do make a big difference. I'm not really anti-Catholic so much as I am only Catholic, right? When you start attacking me for being not a Catholic, I lose my shit.
Right.
I hate that.
But there's also like one of those things like, I mean, mind you, I'm Catholic school, heavily Catholically interested, very broad pro-Catholic attitudes toward religion and social institutions and stuff like that. You got to remember where your traditions came from. And, like the crater-headed, like no brain, like writing memes, particularly in the 19th and 20th century, basically anytime one of those popes like put pen to paper and wrote about economics, they were penning some of the most brain dead shit you would ever read.
Oh yeah. That's the intersection of spiritual and material matters. If you're fully spiritual minded, you're gonna say the dumbest material shit ever. That's fully demonic. You'll be unintentionally demonic because you're working outside of a realm that you understand, which is, by the way, an act of hubris.
Yep. I love Rerum Novarum as a good read, but boy, when it talks about economics and the material instantiation of Catholic social justice, I just find it reprehensible.
Yeah, exactly. I think part of God's plan is we're going to need to all work together. And as a Christian, anybody who accepts Christ as their savior and believes in the virgin birth of Mary and the chosen, like this, the fact that Jesus is the Son of God and the Savior of all of our sins, it's like, all right, you're good. All right. You can believe in whatever horse shit you want. Like the Japanese Christians believed that he was a garlic farm, like came back to earth as a rice/garlic farmer, depending on who you ask.
Yeah,
but
most Christian sects accept any Christian baptism, regardless of what what specific sect it was done in.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, those Japanese I was talking about, like, got martyred. It was like, okay, well, they got a lot more faith than I do. I haven't been martyred yet. Have not as long as, like, as far as I know, like I've not died for my faith. They did. It's good on them. So, well, who am I to judge and weigh?
Yeah.
Anyways. We're a bit apart from the. Okay, sorry. Do you have another point?
Yeah, I just wanted on sort of returning to the subject. I did want to return to highlighting that one of the really weird things about James Lindsay's definition of what is an American, and we've been riffing on this, like how many people who we know when we see it have to be American, but that he reads out of the definition. Which is insane. And I think one of the failures here is indigeneity has to be a component of it.
Right. We don't consider Native Americans not American, right?
Well, we used to. I mean, I think it was in 1947 that Native Americans were granted U.S. citizenship because prior to that, they were citizens of their own nations. And there was a very deliberate turn in decision. Like, okay, these are nations in some sense, but they're like the Welsh. They're not really a self-sufficient nation, and they kind of more regard us as their, as a certain type of kin, maybe cousins, than they do non-family members.
Like being born here also means you have the anchor baby things, right? Like, so.
I mean something different by indigeneity than just solely right of the soil.
I see.
Because American people are an admixture. Like both you and I have to various degrees convoluted bloodlines, and like say the wokesies get their way and land acknowledgements turns into land returns, and we just got to eject all of the whiteys or woke undesirables. Where the fuck am I going back to? Like, I have nowhere else that I could be from.
Right. Like we're
despite having no Mayflower stock.
Well, we're indigenous in a singular sense, not as a people, but like the thing is, to become an American, you're kind of depeoplization, right? You're going to find within a couple of generations, you're not going to be 100% German or English. Right. And within like 2 generations, you're not going to be a part of any original settlers, right? You're going to have a certain amount that isn't, and you're going to be, let's say you're fresh off the boat 2 generations ago, right? You're now no longer from your home country.
Yeah.
How do we square that peg, right? And the thing is, like, the American people get to decide how far that goes back, right? Like, if you're born to illegals now, like, we're deporting the illegal parents at the moment, and then the child can probably is kind of compelled by material necessity, to go back with the parents. So that gives you like 1 generation back, just by the nature of the circumstances of the deportation.
Yeah. Well, one interesting thing is, like, at least as written within the Constitution, like, dual citizenship should be impossible for Americans. And if you're naturalized, if you want to become naturalized as an American, you have to renounce all other citizenships. But America, like, can't control what is a German rules for Germany. So you can have somebody who's born in America and, is in that same sense indigenous, but also satisfies German citizenship rules, and they have a passport waiting for them when they choose to claim.
Right. This is the dual citizenship thing. I don't know if you could be an American. This is my subjective opinion, is I don't know if you can be fully American if you have dual citizenship, because you got one foot out the door, and that's just introducing too much dual loyalty.
Right. Well, that's why I think the social and psychological criteria are essential. And one of the things, like, especially the ethnats are going for, is trying to do a monocausal analysis and trying to find the one thing that makes an American. You know what I mean?
They want for 2 reasons.
They want easy answers.
They want an easy answer, but they also don't want to actually have to do any work.
Right. And actually, if you look at, belonging to the people like the English, for instance, even in a relatively clear-cut sort of association, like relative to American, it's still multi-causal or multivariate. Like Nigel Farage. Farage is a French Huguenot surname. He comes from an unbroken lineage of Huguenots. So what do you do with that?
Right. And it's funny, I actually saw on James Lindsay's page, the media section had a interview with Benjamin Boyce and Nima Farbini, academic agent, where he's kind of asking, and I didn't see the whole thing because I didn't have time before the show, but he's asking Nima, like, how does this make sense that you're part Persian and part English, like, or Welsh? Like, how does this square? And it is an interesting question, because, like, for me on Twitter,
how does it make sense that you're American despite being part Hakka Chinese / Malaysian? And it's like, well, it doesn't really run that way.
Yeah, exactly. I will push back on the Malaysian part. I hate Malaysia. We hate Malaysia. They keep stealing all of our islands. But the funny thing is the Malaysian branch is like the Muslim branch of the family, who keeps attacking the Christian branch who runs the Dutch East Indies versus Malaysia. So it's like Indonesia versus Malaysia is very much a religious difference. It's kind of fun. We all kind of love and hate each other, but we all go back to Singapore because it's just neutral ground.
Yep. I saw, as a total digression, by the way, I saw a great chart that I've been trying to find again for years. And it's a circle that's drawn on the earth that mostly encompasses Malaysia and Pakistan. And it says, like it's, it's Southern Asia and Oceania. And it says 50% of the Muslims on Earth live inside this circle.
Oh yeah, no,
Like,
Indonesia,
that's perspective changing.
Oh no, absolutely. Like Indonesia has 14 million people last I checked in Jakarta alone, and almost all of them are Muslims. Now, are they like what kind of Muslims are you? Right, that's the question. My Christian family, yeah, go ahead.
Well, and also the Arabs, because of the land they hold, have so much spiritual dominion and authority over the faith too. Despite most of their co-religionists, not being Arabized like North Africans.
Yeah, if I was a real son of a bitch, I would try and introduce to like powerful imams in East Asia a separatist movement, and like you can have your own Mecca, and then just watch the sparks fly because it'd be funny to me. I'm just a shit stirrer.
I love it.
As Christians, we just sort of laid low and do business. My family is essentially the bunch of Ferengi. If you ever watch Star Trek, we're total Ferengi. And then we went to America. My dad went to America. He didn't get along as well in East Asia, but he got along fairly well in America. And then we mated with what is essentially farm equipment or like Northern English descended American Midwesterners. So like I've got like accounting software loaded up in a tractor, and that's my body. That's who I am. Not a bad combination, to be honest. But anyways, yeah, like if you start trying to draw like maternally, I am founding stock nearly almost completely. Like we're the Jones. It's one of the first towns as a Jones town. We're very early on. But my dad is a new addition. So it's like, okay, what makes me not an American? And when I look at the election and when I look at people who are in power, and the people who are in power are democratically chosen, or at least populist chosen, right? In all those ways that they are chosen, whether it's votes or money, or just pure influence, right? Like influence is like number of followers that costs neither money nor time. If you look at the people who've been chosen to be leaders in America, I think that you start to find there's an ethnic ambiguity to what makes an American. And that's going to be a hard pill for a lot of ethno-nats to swallow.
Yeah.
I also believe in the ship of Theseus theorem of America, which I made up, is that if stuff starts becoming dysfunctional in America, we will unfortunately find a replacement. And now that replacement is often American.
Yeah.
But it's not the American, like the carpetbaggers after the Civil War was absolutely an ethnic replacement of the Southerners.
Oh, certainly a cultural replacement. I mean, the carpetbaggers in terms of genes didn't necessarily stick a ton. I mean,
well, I think genes are about 10% of what makes a person. It is 100%
I agree with you.
Yeah, I think it's 100% of what determines their max aptitude. But almost nobody ever meets their max aptitude.
Yeah,
especially in America.
yeah. I mean, my mom's an artist, and she used to say like talent, like raw natural talent, is about 5% of the equation. Practice and training is the other 95%. And raw natural talent doesn't even begin to show up as a differentiating factor until you are at the top end.
Right. Like you could have like a place that's called Mid America or Meta America, where you just train Americans. That's actually kind of a fantasy that I had. Is in other countries you'd have this place as a tryout community for America, just mini America town, and it's like
one of those nuclear test site towns, but there's no bombs being dropped on it. It's just a bunch of fighters and some control Americans.
Yeah, it's like the most Orwellian shit you've ever seen. It's like you're going to start reporting people for un-American activity, but we screw, and Americans are okay with scrutinizing foreigners who naturalize more than natural borns. That's like one of the few privileges that natural borns have over naturalized people, because naturalized people were raised someplace else. So it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. That's the indigeneity component that I'm talking about, is like, where else am I meant to be from? Where else are you meant to be from? It's not the same for your dad. But like, and I almost think, so I got Grok to spit out a bunch of actual or hypothetical criteria for what, creates belonging to a nation, a people, or a tribe.
Do you want to share it or anything, or do you want to share?
I'll just run through them real quick. So like in legal and civic criteria, we have citizenship by birth, just solely; citizenship by descent, just sanguineous; naturalization, dual or multiple citizenship, then ethnic and ancestral criteria, genetic ancestry, genealogical records, i.e., provability of descent, tribal enrollment via kinship. So this and this falls very close to the other two, but being accepted in on the basis of a certain share. Cultural and behavioral criteria, language proficiency, which by the way is not currently one of the standards for what it is American, but I think like we should enforce much more strongly. Adherence to customs and traditions, shared values and ideology, and these are like the two non-civic criteria that James Lindsay hits. He essentially ignores everything else. Lifestyle and daily practices.
I'm kind of loose on that one. Depends.
I'm loose on that one, but like especially if you're looking at local acceptance and being accepted as like an Appalachian, for instance, like the more micro level you get, the more important that one becomes.
Yeah, I'll speak from personal experience. Like the lifestyle and daily practices, we think of that as like, oh, do you wear your shoes indoors or not? Like it's bullshit. This also does include to like how many wives do you have?
Yeah,
right. Like that, like big stuff that makes a big difference. Do you engage in illegal activities? Do you have slaves? Those are like major things. Small things like, oh yeah, we're Chinese and we eat Chinese food. Most Americans aren't going to give a rat's ass. In fact, we're probably going to come over and see what's cooking. It's like, are you doing a barbecue today? Because the Chinese barbecue is pretty damn good, and they cook outside most of the time. The Chinese immigrants pre-1965, especially, like integrated fairly well. I think post-19, oddly enough, like the 80s and beyond were a great time for East Asians, because they integrated so damn well in America. Because we stopped being quite so deterministic and started becoming more qualitative. There's a part in the 20th century where Americans stopped being huge sticklers for the ethnic part and started being more open to even more exotic ethnicities as long as they embodied the values of America. And as I put on here before, is like some ethno-nats will like, this is what I said before to was it Roman Helmet guy on X, who subsequently blocked me, is that like, where are you going to draw the line between what is an American? Like Mayflower and then boom, that's it? Or like up to the Civil War or post-Civil War, or like, unless you're willing to send a lot of Irish Catholics and Italians back home, I can't take you seriously as someone who thinks that there's an ethno-national American. Like, are you gonna tell the Italians they're not Americans? Because I hope you're ready to get a baseball bat to the teeth. Are you ready to tell the Asian Americans from the West Coast, like the Chinese who've been here since the early 1800s, that they're not Americans? I hope you're ready for roof Koreans.
Right.
We will absolutely wring your throat over this shit. Like, and like whoever comes afterwards, right? What other names does a rose have, right? Like what year do you put the boundaries? Like when you start doing the ethnonat game, you end up dividing more than you are defining. Put it that way. Yeah.
Okay, so we've covered the ethnic and cultural ancestry, geographic and residential criteria, birthplace or long-term residency. This is actually like weirdly one of the criteria that a lot of European countries places for, because like Europeans often understand like being French or being German as being part of the ethnicity, but not necessarily the same as citizenship, which they regard as having a passport. Now, a lot of them, for foreigners to come in and obtain citizenship, they often must participate in the ethnicity, or at least used to before the Syrian Civil War. But for them, it's like, oh, what was his name? That famous actor Depardieu. I think he was like Belgian or Luxembourgian or something like there's all sorts of people who have like French passport, French citizen kind of thing, like, but they're not really from around there.
Right.
And the Euros kind of regard that as its own thing. So like the categorization system is really different for them. Territorial attachment. So this is one of the requirements for Danish citizenship. Is you must regard, even if it's not literal, Denmark as a spiritual homeland. Exile or diaspora status. So this is particularly important for Jews living in other parts of the world, considering themselves fellow people with Israelites. This is also Somalians and Somalilanders, like, also still participate in this regardless of where they're living or tend to.
Right. I think America right now has a distaste for diaspora mindset. It's like America at the moment is either you're 100% on America, Team America, or you're a foreign actor, right? I think that's the reason why.
No, but I think it's actually entirely appropriate to regard diaspora peoples like in a high degree of suspicion.
I think if an Englander tried to come to America right now, I'd be like, you have to denounce England. And if it was up to me, because I'm a son of a bitch,
or like the South Africans,
denounce the crown.
Refugees.
Like, denouncing the crown is actually a very American thing to do. So denounce it, and you let it go. Right?
Yeah. As wonderful as South Africans are, we don't want like a permanent entrenched cultural and political South African diaspora community.
No,
holds themselves apart from the shared understanding of the people here.
The main reason people don't like Jews in America is actually because they seem to be dual loyalty. Jews and congressmen, they have a dual loyalty to Israel. Right? That's the main thing. That's the main reason.
I mean, the election of Kennedy was also controversial for a similar reason, because what are you going to do electing a president with dual loyalty to the Pope?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. I'm keeping this under my hat. I don't want to offend anybody, but I'm going to offend people because it is what it is. I don't trust Americans who have a loyalty to the Pope. If you're Catholic, and if the Pope commanded you that America is a damned nation and must be destroyed, I'd be like, okay, we need to find out who you are now. Right? Like, are you loyal to the Pope or are you loyal to America? Because right now the Pope is wanting us to just settle as okay, I'm paraphrasing, I'm probably wrong. Let's say the Pope said that we need to let all the drug dealers in and all the refugees in and all the people who are dreamers in, and that we have a Christian duty to take care of all the third world by letting them into our country. And then you're just a clear-headed American. So obviously you're going to have to make a decision. So I think decision, in my opinion, decision time is right now.
But it varies. It varies by the strength of the diaspora bonds or the strength of the split loyalty. Because I think like for a lot of American Jews that still have this, diaspora status, which actually grants them legal rights in Israel, their affinity is actually somewhat weak. They recognize their co-religionists, they recognize their tribe, and they want well for them. But the like tangible, okay, this results in action time, that loyalty is actually really soft. And I think for a lot of Catholics, not all American Catholics, but a lot of American Catholics, that loyalty is really, really soft.
I think so too. I think a lot of them are happier with
Somalians. I think that loyalty is really, really strong. And it's like, it's a David Serlin soft rule that you have to be really careful about. But like, I wouldn't hold this against most Jews, and this is not an ethnic thing. This is just like a political alignment thing. I would not hold this against most Jews. I would hold this against most Somalians.
Yes. Yeah. I think right now it's the, what it comes up to is how much they're asking for at the moment. Right. Like I'm willing to like allow that to be an unanswered question that exists. The answer only exists in the heart of the individual American. No American is 100% American, by the way. I think American is the thing you strive for. There's always a certain cloud of doubt.
Right.
It depends on what you've demonstrably done. And one thing that America believes in is fair play. I think. And if you start to subvert systems, we tend to get a little pissed. That's also a reason why the Jews tend to be disliked in America, and why Americans find the Jews distasteful, is because they're like trying to subvert rules of their own religion. We don't like any subversion of rules. As Christians, you're supposed to internalize the rules and change your heart to match them, not see the rules as a barrier which you're supposed to finagle your way around, right? You know what I mean?
I heard it's interesting because like there are some things where like, you know, yeah, certain aspects of Orthodox Judaism Judaism is like so sectarian and so like wildly divergent in its internal structure. But I heard a really interesting adaptation observation from the Collinses about Jews is they seem to be the only genetic lineage of humans who are like, you know, adapted for the sort of conditions of mouse utopia, in that they're basically the only human ethnic group who, when exposed to urbanization, not only don't suffer population decline, but actually thrive in terms of demographic numbers.
This is the part where I become an enemy of all Americans because I have some opinions on cultures. By the way, I want you to join my culture. Right now, we're going through a bunch of extinction events all simultaneously, and everyone's obsessing over the fertility rate. Like my family in particular is very good at getting women as wives and then getting them to voluntarily go along with everything. Like we're very good at keeping women happy and in line, right? We're not very, we just understand. We're just good with women. That's what I was saying. So if your culture is not very good with women, you're going to suffer in this new world. You don't understand it. Like, and the weird thing is I see that a lot of people want to regress their culture. They want to regress their culture because the old culture forced women to have to cooperate, like forced through economic and practical and security concerns. Whereas like my family has just been pretty good about just keeping them on our side via actual sentiment. And like we're going to go through a couple of extinction events. And that's what I'm saying about the ship of Theseus. Is like, if you want to be a traditionalist, then prepare for like, how much do you bet on it, right? What if your tradition is entirely is going to be an extinction event, right? So that's why I like an American being a very dynamic thing, and the only and lives in the sentiment and opinions of current day Americans.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna put one in here that I think is a personal one.
Do you want to see if you could share the list? I mean, it's a pretty good list. I mean, if you can share it, I don't know how you can.
It's just a Google Doc.
I'm just gonna share the screen. Then it's all good. If that's all right.
Yeah. If I think there's a soft sort of value that your society needs to enforce, which is, you know, whatever your definitions are for these kinds of things, you also need a subsystem that subtly selects against city people.
Why is that?
I'm being straight up about this. Like,
oh yeah, no worries. I kind of agree with you.
Urbanism is super bad for human beings psychologically, and like I mentioned the Collins's observation about Jews, in that they seem to have essentially through unconscious eugenics and Darwinism aligned at a genetically based like psychological recomposition of human beings that actually does well in urban environments. But for the most part, urban environments make you crazy, and like the opinions of city people should straight up be discounted. They're closer to wealth, and they're closer to, you know, the capital base, and wind up doing a lot with it, but they're basically insane.
Yes. The criticism I've had over a lot of conservatives, ethnocons especially, Tucker Carlson is a good example. I don't think we should be trying to make cities beautiful. I couldn't give a rat's ass less. I don't think that a city other than DC as a place to receive dignitaries has any. And by the way, the area of DC that matters is just the National Mall. It's very small.
I mean, I'll push back on this. You know, like saying knowing that cities have dangers and that cities essentially produce psychological maladjustment, saying we shouldn't try and make cities beautiful is a bit like the Dutch saying, we shouldn't try and stop floods. We should all just move to the highlands.
So you're saying it's like a necessity that we have.
Yeah. It's okay. To slow down the damage that's done.
Right.
Like beautiful cities is a system of dikes. Like, you're still going to have flooding. You're still going to be fighting the water, but like you need to put in place a defense system.
I see what you're saying. Yeah. I mean, okay. Yeah. Beautification of cities, but like, we have to go back to what purpose did the cities serve? What do we get out of it? Because the cities are the spirit of America is very much I think is the Jeffersonian America, is that you are a master of your land. You are fairly rural, but you are very well read. You're scientific. You have great understanding. You're essentially a noble living in your very small kingdom, which is your farm.
Yeah, the Jeffersonian vision is that we fully democratize aristocracy.
Yes, and
that we're a one-class nation, not in that we're all working class, but in that we're all aristocrats.
Yes, the cities then, what purpose do they serve, right? Like cultural centers. I think a city might be well to stand as a monument of like, yes, this city is a place where all of the outlying areas collect to gather, right? They collect to create something that is transcendent of our civilization and emblematic of our civilization.
I mean, so like, here's the thing. I'm saying some fairly condemnatory things of city dwellers, but I actually don't view cities as a moral problem. I view them as a technological problem, in that cities provide a lot, just on the level of pure logistics, on opportunity, anti-fragility, exposure to positive upsides, exposure to, potential spouses and, all this
cosmopolitan.
You do a ton by centralizing your capital base. It does a lot to make it really, really efficient. But it also creates a bunch of psychological problems just by hanging out.
Yeah.
So, you're essentially trying to, keep the upsides as much as you can while minimizing these like wild ass downsides. And like city beautification is fine because, despite taking like a technologist perspective, I'm also not up there with Le Corbusier that, cities or houses are machines for living. Because the human experience is very expansive and broad ranging, includes spiritual layers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And even if you're being just outcome based, most of the gains that you make, like share of gains that cities make, you're always going to get an increasing amount from intensification of capital. But cities have been making less proportional gains on the capital that they have when they've been ugly versus when they've been beautiful.
I see what you're saying. So we're trying to just maximize the functionality of the city, and beautification is part of that.
Right. Yeah. And also minimize the damage it does to the overall social fabric. You have to keep you need the residents of the city to make disproportionate payouts. And you need to make sure that they don't go insane.
I have a by the way, I love the dystopian fiction genre, right? Like was it Those Who Walk from Therasustra? I forget what it was. Omelos or something like that.
Those Who Walk Away from Omelos by what's her name?
Ursula K. Le Guin. Yeah, you're very good. You don't know the stuff off the top of your head, but I have to look it up. I love a dystopian fiction. One that maybe I should co-write with you. Be funny. Is I have one where there's a city that you're sent there like it's a military deployment. Like you were supposed to live there from 18 to 24 or something like that in the city, and you're given like a shitty apartment to start with. But what happens is the city is a very vibrant place, and what the city is a personality test of where to bring you next.
Oh, sure. Yeah, yeah. It's almost like a Plato's Republic, like test of soul kind of thing, combined with a Heinleinian. You have to do an ordeal of service to really become a full political.
Yeah, your ordeal of service is, it's not really an ordeal of service, really. It's like the service is up to you. We're going to put you in this place, and we're going to see.
I know you want to write this
yeah.
as like a work of dystopian science fiction. I want to write this as a presentable political constitution.
Well, yeah. The dystopian part is that the government specifically fucks with you to see what you do, because it's not a place where you maximize your potential. It's a place where we determine who you are.
My opinion remains unchanged.
Yeah. So this fiction started with me having a story of like a dark dystopia, right? And it's complete tropey, basic bitch dystopia. And the main character's mother is part of the resistance, because that's part of the tropes. And the thing is, the tropes lead into how the narrative is built. The mother abandons her child during a raid. There's a big raid on some database, right? Whatever. Like the son does not turn in anybody. He's very, very bold, and he is a genuine believer. He's like the Antifa member who really believes in it.
Right.
But unlike Antifa, it's a proper movement. It has a purpose, but it's like trying to give you the maximum punishments. So like in a certain amount of solitary confinement, he doesn't crack. He's then brought out and black bagged, and he thinks he's going to be executed. But what he is ascended, because he is now part of the small conclave of those who live in the top of the city, above it in the clouds, that determines the governance of the city. It's like you have to go through this maelstrom of all of the sins, all of the temptations, all of the tests of your weakness. And if you come out as a fully formed moral person, you then get to be part of the council that governs. And the all of the suffering that you went through was actually to measure you as a man and as a person. And
have you read Neil Stephenson's Diamond Age?
You recommended that to me before. I read Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash, but not Diamond Age.
I did not care for Snow Crash. I adore Diamond Age.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was my opinion too. And I've read some of his novels really hit, and some of them really miss. Diamond Age is one for me that really hit. And if the literary analysis thing tees off, we should take a look at Diamond Age, because it's touching on a lot of the ideas you just presented, and honestly, like a lot of really valuing one's culture. The book is ostensibly set in a world where nanotechnology is real, but all of the sci-fi speculation is about forms of social organization.
Right. That's the interesting part, right? Like, because the thing is, the young boy in my conception of a story is that he gets to the ascended civilization, he hates it. He doesn't think people should be forced to live like this, and he is the rebel to the end. And they have to show him the wisdom of their ways. And what they do is they put him in charge of a small borough, and he just gets to be god of a small population, and just sees how all of his ideas lead to widespread cataclysm. It's what it is. I want a study in cynicism. This is to me a study in hope versus cynicism. And where does hope and ego, where do they really end, right? Like, because ego and hubris is simply the hope in oneself, and cynicism is the misplaced hope in others.
Oh man, well, there's another layer to it too, which is like, and I think a lot of what makes cynics, and we've talked about this before too, is idealism and the rejection of incrementalism. Like,
yes,
unless you accept the world as it is, and focus on, I wish it were some other way, but what can I do with what I have? If you never say, what can I do with what I have, you're consigning yourself to be a perpetual academic agent, like a pants shitting baby who's obsessed with being right and one fix, metaphysical solutions, versus actually doing something about it.
Right. And this is the thing about the it's interesting that you and I come at it from different academic backgrounds. We kind of came to the same conclusion, that because you're a philosopher and I'm an engineer, by all rights we should be enemies, but we kind of agree on most things. Whereas an engineer is very measured in his approach because they can break things very quickly.
Yes.
Right.
Philosophers can break things very quickly too. See, 19th and 20th century.
Right, that's true.
I mean, I think we get along because we both have a contempt for philosophers.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Self-hating. Well, I also have a contempt for scientists, which is simply a philosopher who has a process. I hate scientists.
No, it's a philosopher. I mean, a scientist is a philosopher with like particularly like physicists are philosophers who got a C- in philosophy of science and scientific method. Like I don't know. I don't have a high opinion of physicists as a breed, and think they're pretty, like, by philosophers' standards, they're stupid philosophers. Great deal of technical knowledge, great deal of mathematical facility, very dumb.
The difference is that a engineer will bargain as a matter of practice. We know that we're making a bargain, whereas a physicist demands and must be forced to bargain. There's no man in history that I have this just disdain for. There's no reason for this disdain. It's just a pure feelings. I hate Oppenheimer. For some strange reason, I hate the ethics. I hate the feeling of power. Like, you don't have that much power. I hate the feeling of that you're like I have become death. Oh, fuck off, asshole. You made some equations and you built a thing. Fuck off.
I think it was Eisenhower that had him.
It was Truman.
Come around.
Truman.
Truman. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer gave that speech to him and said, and Truman said something like, "I dropped the bomb, not he did. Don't bring that mincing queer around here again."
Yeah. Which is, by the way, the difference. Yeah. Truman telling him to fuck off. Physicists are useful once in a blue moon. Engineers are useful every day. I'm incredibly arrogant about being an engineer, is because I know that I'm forced to be humble, and every day I fluctuate between feeling like a genius and a retard. It's like I'm genius, or I am retarded until I've done a thing of genius and then set a 5-minute timer and I'm back to being retarded. Like the amount of nature, God, whatever you want to call it, forces one to be humble. That's what I'm saying. Is like a good philosopher and a good engineer and a good person is that they are humbled by reality. They seek, and science as a process seeks humility, which is the only difference it had between alchemy.
Yeah, like it should. But do scientists?
Cocksucker.
I mean, yeah. That's a problem. And like the 20th century is a century where so many bad decisions were made in a row that it's really difficult to disentangle them.
Right.
The throwing wide open of academia is one of them, in that it let too many stupid people into disciplines that they shouldn't be in. And for those like wondering, I don't define stupidity as the opposite of intelligence. I define stupidity as the opposite of wisdom. It let too many stupid people access tools they should never get their hands on.
Right.
And something that differentiates engineering from physics or other academic aspects of the hard sciences is you are always subject to material reality tests. Does it go when you push the button or not?
Correct.
Therefore, the methodology of engineers is far closer. Like, it's fundamentally grounded in the pursuit of wisdom, which is, experience plus time and reflection, than most scientists are. Ostensibly, the scientific method is supposed to be guardrails that force you to be wise. But that doesn't work when you flood the market with stupid people who don't comprende.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, like most studies cannot be replicated, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, yeah, and so much of it is due to hubris or stupidity.
And the thing is, our academic system has incentivized hubris, because if you don't publish, you don't live. Like, publish or perish, right? So I don't trust academics very much, and it's destroyed the system. Like, it's destroyed the system of academia. Maybe it was always in the cards. Maybe it's a modern phenomena. I would love to have a conclave of very intelligent people, but we may end up going back to the guild system where it's like knowledge is contained and protected rather than shared and disseminated. Like, is Unilever going to have a massive edge on chemical science over the rest of humanity? Who knows, man? I will say that, like, I was talking to my wife about this earlier today, is that marketers understand human nature far better than any academic. Like the conclave of tweeted, like the tweed wearing lifetime academics. Let's say you got a psychology department of like 50 people. Okay. All right. The head marketing firm that like treats with Coca-Cola, Procter & Gamble, Unilever, all these major corporations is going to have thousands of people working in understanding the human mind. And they're going to also they're not restricted by an IRB, an internal review board of the studies. They're going like a website can collect so much more data on you than the academics can in a survey.
Right.
So the people who know, this is why I say the people who understand women the best are marketers, because marketers have absolutely hacked women's intuitions and have changed it. Like I can list off. Oh, good. Yeah, sorry.
It used to be that something like a research university was the best way to harness capital base to a body of knowledge. But the speed and nature by which capital moves nowadays is so dynamically different. And this is why you see the ascendancy of, sort of the tech elite is, internet and mass communication meant that like the research laboratory actually doesn't really harness capital as quickly or effectively as somebody building like a widget or something and then, raises some funding rounds and just starts going to town on data. Like our world changes shape all the time. Oh,
right.
I'm also gonna run a quick bathroom run and then tech check. So I'll be right back. But
no worries. Yeah, absolutely. I'll
let the spirit go on this one.
All right. So yes, all right, I've been popping into the comments here. Like, I'm somewhat of a Luddite that prefers analog tech. In my opinion, the internet has been such a backfire for a lot of reasons. Chief among them, allows people to get incorrect information faster. Yes. It used to be very difficult to create information for public consumption, right? I'm going to go way back to the monks, the first mass communication, just basic writing, right? Not clay tablets necessarily, but basic writing. You'd have to have a monk sit there and reproduce your writing for days, weeks, months to get it out there. The printing press comes along, right? You still have to do a lot of setup to get a printing press to work, right? Like setting those tiles is actually quite difficult. But you can now start printing things, especially if they're in mass, like the Bible, very quickly, okay? Well, now I can publish a work in almost no time at all. And I've noticed this, that if you just tell people what they want to hear, they'll 90% of the time, they will listen to the other 10% where you're bullshitting them or influencing them. Right, you hide a little bit of medicine inside the candy, so you end up having people that have an agenda, hiding messages inside of the sort of sweet message. Like if you want to be popular on X right now, or at least a month ago, you should absolutely hate the UJs. You should hate Israel. I don't know what the pig Latin for Israel is. You should absolutely be anti-Israel, all this stuff, whatever the algorithm is picking up on, because there's a plurality of people. And now you're getting out of not just is your communication replicable and easily disseminatable, but what is promoted by the algorithm and how can you game the algorithm? Because people ascribe a certain level of agency to the algorithm that I don't think it has. The algorithms follow trends. They create trends from followed trends. They'll take something that's moderately popular to make it very popular. And if you can win the popularity contest, you end up on top. Well, the problem is you get this amplification effect. This amplification effect means that there are certain truths that are buoyed and brought to the fore that are actually quite marginal, but they were marginal, but marginally better than everybody else. You know what I'm saying? Is that if you can be if you're among 10 different options and you could be 10% of the mind market share, whereas everybody else is 9, or 9 or 10, you will be about 90%, 99%. What I'm saying is that algorithms tend to enforce a Pareto distribution on top of a Pareto distribution. That's quite horrific because you can put a lot of stuff at the top without a lot of effort as long as you're coordinated. And that's the scary thing. I think a lot of different people have figured that out, right? Yeah. I am old enough to have made a cassette tape mixtape, not for a girl. For a girl, I was in the CD age, but like for me, I had made a mixtape of like I'd be excited to run to the radio and start recording the radio, and put it on my cassette tape. Right, like that's old as shit. I bet that age could come. By the way, technology is a funny thing because if it affects the masses, it affects the masses. But like if you can create a conclave of people who have become Luddites, you can control your technological input. Now, this is not the subject of tonight, but like the Sargon of Akkad mentioning that capitalism is bad for families is that I suspect that in terms of consumerist culture, that the father, the patriarch of the family, in this case him, is not able to moderate the consumption of high technology, right? Like, can you take the iPad from the baby? Can you, unless he was talking about a more societal wide thing, right? Because there's two different effects of a consumerist culture. It's the macroscopic mega corporation and their market share and the games they play at that level. And then there's the actual just individual level where you have to exercise agency and control of yourself and those you love. And that's what family is. Family is the ability to control those you love. If you get down to the very brass tacks of it, family, the quality of a family, or the coherency of a family is about who is in control and how much. And a lot of people who've just sent their children off to public school and let the society or the village raise their children find themselves to be at a deficit of control over their progeny. And they feel like they don't have any control over where their children go, right? Like, but that's their problem, right? Like, you have control. In Europe, maybe not so much, right? I am sympathetic to Europeans, but in America, you can have homeschool. You have a lot of control over your children in America, most of America. Manage to hear. All right, I got a couple of points here. Right, I got Benign here. By the way, Benign, thank you for your participation. I appreciate it. Howley Doodley, I hope you're enjoying the football game. I don't think it's started yet, but it might have. Yeah. So Benign says, I can agree with that, but also believe that Englishmen always lean towards socialism or American. Yeah, and it always has. I have a video about this out yesterday where I think it was yesterday. It was at some point. Where I think that the English believe in institutions being responsible for families, whereas in America, we believe families are responsible for institutions. And this is the Scotch-Irish clan structure that we have in America, right? We've had a lot of different, hey, Hadley, did appreciate it. We've had a lot of different organizations of America, in like all of the Seeds of Albion, right? I reference the Seeds of Albion quite a bit. As much as I hate the term, there is a truth to it. The Scots-Irish, hyper-Protestant, very militarized part of America is very clannish, right? And the clannish nature means that they take responsibility for their own. You could read, by the way, Cosma recommended a book, Hillbilly Elegy by J.D. Vance. It's a very sober recollection of living in a clannish, Middle American Appalachian family, right? These people are very resistant to all the bullshit because they believe family comes first and everything comes after that. They're the ones who are most likely to distrust what a public school teacher tells their child. Whereas the English, right, to Benign's point, the English have a lot of faith in their institutions. They just think their institutions need a little bit of tweaking. Americans are very happy at least Scotch-Irish Americans, are very happy to just burn their institutions to the ground. Like the complete destruction of the Department of Education, which most Americans want, I think, is not something you can do in England, right? Because they're just going, oh, we'll just tweak it a little bit. Like, oh, we just want to solve this one little problem, which is fine. But like, there's two types of conservative, at least two types. It's like one where is the individual and by extension their family the locus of power, or is it the institution? Like, which one are they conserving, the family or the institution? Because you can't conserve both. They're actually, as England has demonstrated, the family and the institution are antithetical in a lot of ways. Because the institution is trying to subvert or gain power of, through surreptitious means, the functions of the family. Same thing with the factory town. The Jeffersonian American is a independently wealthy farmer. Thing about farming is like, you can't cancel culture my potatoes. If I grow a bunch of potatoes, someone's going to buy them. You can't politically attack me. I'm making money. I am growing potatoes. I'm growing cotton. I'm growing whatever it is that makes money. You can't cancel that. So my bargain in terms of income is entirely between my land and me. In other words, my scientific understanding of agriculture and my self-discipline. Or if you want to get into a religious space, between God and man. A farmer-based culture is a bargain between God and man, right? So to an American, a Jeffersonian American, working at a factory with your income dependent on an institution is actually horrendously un-American. And we see this with the homestead people. Like, you remember during the COVID era where a lot of like homestead stuff became really popular. I even had a homestead channel back then called The Farmgineer, right? Where people are trying to return to the land. They want to be non-cancelable. They don't want to be dependent on society. They want to be preppers. In other words, they want to be self-sufficient, right? A great goal. You should try to be self-sufficient, or at least have like a break glass in case of cataclysm option in your life, right? That is antithetical to the institutional living of, making a paycheck from someone else's business.
So it looks like the gain on my audio interface got cranked. I tried turning down the decibels a bit on the virtual mixer. Is this helping?
Oh, yeah. Sounds good. It sounds good. Keep talking. I'll let you know. There's a bit of like roboticization. That might be an internet connection issue.
Oh, yeah, it probably is. We'll
power through it.
I reckon it's down to connection.
Yeah, we'll power through it. No worries.
Yeah.
It'd be funny if I brought you my Starlink when I come visit during Christmas break. Is that an improvement? Like, what's your internet like?
It's Phoenix is kind of dog shit for internet.
Balls.
Part of it is the amount that the city expanded. I did look at getting Starlink initially when I moved out here, but there's a congestion charge, essentially because the internet service providers are so crappy, and they ration on the basis of price.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Oh, yeah. So I just went on a big thing about Jeffersonian Americans being non-cancelable, that sort of thing.
Yeah. I mean, that's fuck you money is a smaller sum total than one would expect. And it requires having a fuck you soul.
And a fuck you yeah, exactly. A fuck you soul leads to a fuck you lifestyle. Like for me, I'm trying, my big aspiration right now is to raise pigs.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I can make a lot of money off of pigs. We're gonna see about that, right? Like I'm still working on it. In other words, the fuck you money. But honestly, owning your own business is the ultimate fuck you of everybody who hates your guts.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do nothing about it. Yeah, I'm looking through the comments right now. Benign, I like Benign's comments here. I can agree that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the poor English. I think one of the things like Sapir-Whorf hypothesis and one of the things people Sapir-Whorf hypothesis is absolutely true, by the way, and like any amount of real life experience with people with different languages or learning different languages will demonstrate it's true. But there's also a demonstrated truth in neo-reactionaries go on about there's no such thing as a neutral system, and that's true in, I'll say, a social feminized sense, where there's no neutral institution, in terms of, power relations and interpersonal dynamics and favored and unfavored and friend and enemy and so forth. And that's sort of the pithy sense. It's a very surface layer kind of distinction. There's no such thing as a neutral institution, though, in the linguistic sense, in that the form of the system itself admits of some outcomes as valid and invalid just on its linguistic construction level. And the nature of democracy in the UK versus democracy in the United States results in some pretty variant outcomes and what their institutions are neutral on. Some of it is that the Westminster bubble is the Beltway bubble on steroids. And that in their party system, you really are voting for a party platform and not individual candidate. I think reform was small enough that they actually had to run on individual candidates. And now they're everywhere where they're squishy and folding is people not getting what they voted for, getting, platform quad Nigel Farage and leader as opposed to, what you voted for.
I'm gonna have to message Samson to join us. I think the next thing we're gonna have to do is and we're gonna have Luna and Samson on hopefully for this, is like maybe we'll ask next is what is an Englishman?
Mm-hmm.
That's a fascinating thing because we've laid out where we're getting to what is an American. And an American we've decided so far is fluid and at its base nature. A base nature is an American is determined by Americans, those who've already been initiated. We had a starting point. We've had a starting point, and then it's moved on from there.
Yeah. So Grok spat out one of the social criteria, which I have been most bullish on in past discussions. So there's social and psychological criteria, and I think these are the most key ones. One is self-identification, that you self-identify as an American. And then the next one that conjoins it is group acceptance, that the group says back to you, yes, you say you're one of us, and we say to you, you're one of us. There's also shared historical narrative, which is essentially what you're getting is like buy-in to that and how you can have the ship of Theseus American. I'm a ship of Theseus American, and interestingly, a very close personal friend of mine has a Polish last name, but is actually Mayflower stock. And he has a strong psychological aversion to that. But the reality is, like, he's got that too.
Yeah, my response to the ethno-nats is that, like, I'm here, I own land, I'm an American. What are you going to do about it?
Mm-hmm.
What are you going to do about it?
Here's the thing, and I think one thing that Americans used to have as a criterion, but don't anymore, James Lindsay kind of does, religious or spiritual criteria, adherence to a dominant religion. And what we moved through in the James Lindsay view is an assertion of that, but it's mostly ideological. And then spiritual or mythical ties, you're the descendants of Heracles.
Well, funnily enough, it's the James Lindsay's of the Americas that eroded that, right? Because
yes.
Yeah, they tried to extract a metaphysics from the doctrine. So they've ended up eroding it, right? Like they tried to move out of the castle. And when you're out of the castle, you don't have you lose the rigidity and the cloistering effect of the castle, but you also lose the defensibility of it. You know what I'm saying? They've moved to the Mont rather than the Bailey.
Yeah.
Or did I get that reversed? Whichever one. They moved to an indefensible
the
position.
definition is the Bailey.
Oh, okay, yeah. All right, yeah. So they moved to the Bailey versus the Mott. Yeah, so
yeah, because he thinks he's not under attack anymore.
Exactly. And then he's probably gonna. I mean, I can't.
He believes. James Lindsay and Academic Agent have so many weird parallels, both of which is they believe they've won or are in the act of winning, and can inhabit the Mott territory now, when like really the people who got them to their win state are actually super effing against them.
I think it's a Shakespearean quote of "This is the time that tests men's souls" or something like that. We're right now we're entering the winter of the winter of some civilizations.
The 2024 election was actually the like summer or fall. It was the fall. It was the reaping time. And weirdly, now that we've won, we're going into the winter.
But Benign, do you mean like Academic Agent and James Lindsay specifically here, as we're talking about? Yeah, just indicate that. It's like I find them. Who is them, right? So yeah. There's the problem with Marxism. The common thread I find of Marxism is it's kind of words beget power. That if you can find the right words, you can create power. And I find that everyone who strengthens Marxism has to buy into the covenant of words beget power, right? Like Marxism didn't just happen. Okay, British people at large. The Marxism did not come to power all at once. It had to get massaged several times before it is able to take anything. And I find every single step of the way.
I do appreciate how hard they had to work. Like, and that's a sign like why you don't need to invent philosophical or political epicycles to like, what do you do to like form a counter elite? And like, sure, there's political organization problems, but in reality, if you just stop doing the stupid thing, good things will follow very, very quickly. I mean, Nayib Bukele said this about, when members of his cabinet approached him, like, essentially think of the economic activity fall off that will result from abolishing the gangs. Like maybe we need to subsidize. And he's like, maybe. And he's like, but on actual experience, you knocked out the gangs and the economy came roaring back. You didn't need to offset their absence.
Right. Yeah. So where are we at? A religious and spiritual criteria. So
yeah. The hybrid and contextual criteria I found less useful. Assimilation level I feel like is kind of in there. There's intersectional factors, which is essentially a way of saying you have to combine all these things, and then evolving or contextual definitions is a little bit of the ship of Theseus. What I would say actually that what makes an American is a lot of people are looking either for a single checkbox, or James Lindsay has two. 1, have American citizenship, 2, agree with him, and then sub 2, 1 is be willing to join him on his jihad. But actually what it is, and I think why Americans are sort of the masters of the soft definition, is there are some factors here that are not factors for Americans. What makes Americans identify Americans effectively and have that self-identification group acceptance is that Americans have, say, 15 items that are on our check card, and you're an American if you check 10 of them.
Right.
And really aggressively bad diaspora may dock you 2 points, like Somalians.
I would,
but as long as it sums to 10 points out of 15, you're an American.
Yeah,
exactly. I think of like, I had some interesting experiences staying with a college friend last weekend. One of the first things was, I walk around in my flip-flops everywhere, and one of the first things I was greeted by when I walked in the house is I was going with my default in my household, which is walk around in my flip-flops. And I start walking in the house, and this is an Asian household. We take off our shoes inside. I'm like, oh, okay, kick my shoes off. But like that didn't diminish the Americanness.
Right.
And my friend's wife's father was a Catholic partisan during the Vietnam War. He was helping run resistance operations on the behalf of the United States because communists were anti-Christian. He was actually imprisoned, slated for execution, and put in front of a firing squad and reprieved at the last second. And then taken in by the Americans and resettled in America. This man has done everything in his power to earn the grace and second life he was given. He is still very deeply French-influenced Vietnamese Catholic, but he loves this country and he loves doing what he's doing.
Right.
He checks different items than his daughter does on the American checklist, but
Right.
he still checks them to such an extent that this is indisputably an American.
Yes, I think that to be a true American, and this is the controversial thing I'm going to say, is that to be a true American is actually pretty easy, right? Just like to be a Christian, you have to only accept one single point, right? The one that I said before is that Jesus Christ is our Savior. He is the virgin birth of Mary under the divine influence of God. He is the Son of God and the Savior of all of us.
You have to very carefully write out the Cathar heretics there, but yeah.
Well, what's the Cathar heretics?
The Cathar heresy? I have to look it up for details again, but
yeah, which part of my definition, I guess, does it violate? I suppose if you can remember, no worries.
But it's dualist and whether Christ is God and man or God or man.
Right. Well, I'm going to say like you're saved through Jesus. God saves you through Jesus. Which is, by the way, I find that this is another
your national definition does have to be careful on who it excludes, but it should exclude some people. There should be hard disqualifying points.
Right. Like for the national definition of Americans, it's very much, from what I can tell, is like, are you loyal to the United States and its people beyond that of anybody else? You could be a complete foreigner, by the way. You could be a Frenchman, like Lafayette. And you could arguably be an American, despite the fact he was never a citizen.
Wait. I mean, this is. You also have to have a Jeremy Corbyn carve out, because and I know it's different for the British, either what their list is or whether it's check 10 out of 15.
Right.
But you have to have room for your ideological enemies, and even
I see. Yes,
and there must be a state for the people who could not help but be American and still have ideas that would destroy the American system.
So is it core
the American people?
Yeah. Well, let's say that you're a communist American. Like, I'm okay with that being considered American, right? Like, what I would say is that the core of an American is that pure loyalty to America and its people. Right. Like, you're trying to hold out for their best interests, whatever that might be, however misguided. If you were communist Captain America and you were just fighting for communism in America, and then you died heroically at the foot of the Statue of Liberty, it's like, I think Americans, so you have to do a gut check, right? That's what I love about revealed preferences, is you present somebody with an option and you find out if they're serious or not and what their gut is. Like, so if I say like,
well, revealed preference engages entirely on the pre-rational and post-rational domain.
Exactly. And then you try to like derive the rational behavior. What's the rationalization of both of those things? What is that, right? And I think as somebody who fights for America and the American people, is the very base thing. Like, if you violate that, you're not an American. If you don't violate that, status pending, right?
Well, it's interesting. It's interesting because that's so close to the Lindsayist jihad.
Yeah, he's got the very basic. Yeah, exactly.
But it's interesting because it's softer. It's softer than the Lindsayist jihad position. It's non-ideological, And at a certain level, especially on the indigeneity level, it has to be ethnocentric, which is part of why, even if you I fully admit that Americans are a ship of Theseus ethnic identity, but I do think, if we were to assemble our 10 out of 15, you have to admit, I think, out of the criteria we would be compelled to put in there, that America still is an ethno state. It's just operating on a different technological composition.
Right. Like, what is antithetical to American, to Benign's point? Like, I've tried to push the extreme, right? I tried to put the extreme as like, oh, you're a communist.
Oh yeah, American communist is antithetical to specific American parochial identity, if for no other reason than it's in its very mildest form globalist, and at its most metaphysical form anti-being.
So the identity of an American is very difficult, but it is formed. There is an identity of an American. That's the thing, is like, you have to look at what people justify as being American, and it's actually pretty. I think if you had a jury of your peers, they would agree almost entirely 100% of the time. Like, that's an American, that's not an American. That's an American, that's not an American. Right? Like, your weird college kid will maybe argue that Che Guevara is an American at heart, but it's like, most people are not going to do that, right? So it is a very difficult thing to pin down. I would wonder. This makes me kind of want to go out and do like a survey with people, like go out with a booklet and just do some video where I'm talking to Americans and ask, like, what is an American? Like,
do a man on the street.
Yeah, like, let's say that Joseph Stalin accepted Jesus, he tried to go for American citizenship, he was accepted, and he repented for all of his sins, and now he's like a bookkeeper at some local accounting firm. I was like, is that an American? Is he an American now?
Yeah,
like, he's done.
What's interesting in trying to extract this is, like, it's very easy for these sort of plebiscite polls to turn into a least common denominator analysis. And, I think this would actually pay dividends, but it has to be a core essence analysis.
That's what I'm saying. Is like, least common denominator is kind of what makes an American, because once you're the least common denominator, then it's
I don't think it's least common denominator. I think it's actually an acceptable threshold thing, and why I'm saying 10 out of 15 criteria.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I see.
Because somebody can have American checkboxes that are not at all checked on another person who is also admitted to be an American. I mean, like, my friend's wife and her father, have heavily non-overlapping checkboxes.
Yeah, I think there's some things that like are straight to American. There's a few things, very few things, that make you just straight up an American. But I would say that.
I mean, you test them hierarchically, and I mean, if I was to pick ones, I'd say self-identification plus group acceptance is like, yeah, you're in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, because the thing is, everything else beyond that is kind of cultural and in the moment, right? Like,
and here's the thing, like, while a particular stack may be different, or the criteria for wrong answers, in different, cultures or ethnicities may be more or less, and in often cases, zero wrong check boxes.
Well, here's a checkbox for you. Is that do you feel like you should have to compete on a level playing field with all Americans, finances being all the same? And if you think that you have to have a privilege, there are a lot of Americans, by the way, that are heritage Americans that think they should have some sort of privilege, which is hyper un-American. That's actually the reason why Europe is such a dog shit place, is that there's this blue-blooded stratification of society.
Well, one of the problems of the Marxists running the game that they have is who often gets read out of heritage American, but actually is American blacks.
Yes.
Most American blacks are heritage Americans. both in terms of history, shared narrative, culture, blah 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 blah. Also, interestingly, in genetic difference from Africans, because one, they're an African admixture, and almost all heritage American blacks are admixed with the white population. They're like, there's this thing, if you divide the human race into 7 people just based on genetic difference clusters, 6 of them are African and 1 is everybody else.
Yes.
And American blacks fall into the everybody else category.
They're so different from other Africans because the African phenotype is actually quite diverse.
Yeah, wildly diverse and clusters into distinct groups.
Yes.
But you can't read out American blacks. And one of the weird things that's been done in critical social justice Marxist studies is essentially reading into and tricking Black Americans into believing that, like the hardcore heritage American terminally online white person probably has the same beliefs about their racial entitlement to American aristocratic positions as the average critical social justice Black Marxist.
Right. Actually, yeah, if you count the Black Americans, they make up for a lot of what is antithetical to America. So it's like, at one point,
it's because they were a convenient attack vector. And like, again, I do not resent American blacks. I mostly just feel sorry for what has been done to them.
Yes.
And mind you, there's the domain of condolences that I have has nothing to do with the 19th century and back. It has everything to do with what's been done to them in the 20th century forward.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. The Great Society, which, by the way, the
Great Society up through wokeness.
And
wokeness was as much a moral betrayal as the Great Society.
And by the way, I feel like a lot of whites who resent blacks, American blacks, is like, no, you were living through the same social engineering. I was actually thinking about this earlier today. Is like a lot of the Europeans who were affected by American exports and operations, psyops, are the exact same ones that American blacks have gone. Like the negrification, as academic agent would say, has been predominantly in Europe, right? Like I don't see Europe. I do not see Europe as able to propel its own traditions at all. It's almost like they're at year 0, and it's really unfortunate.
Yes. Yeah, and it's partially their fault, but it's also like in terms of recent confounding variables, mostly our fault.
Yeah,
I mean, this is one of like the great stains against Barack Obama that's only just now becoming appreciated is the Smith Modernization Act, that we injected Europe with propaganda that was meant to destroy them culturally, and Barack Obama, signed into law. Yeah, let's have some of that here.
Right. Yeah. Because there are foreigners, foreign nations. The definition of an American, I think has to have an inclusive and exclusive part of it, right? Like maybe we'll get to it sometime, but like there's things that can get you thrown out. I think it should be hard to become an American and very easy to become un-American. Like,
I don't know. I kind of run the opposite way. Ooh.
Yeah, give it to me. What's controversial?
Don't
worry, you're not going to get banned. It's my channel. Go nuts.
I mean, I think it's not that I'm worried about being banned. It's that I think, I've been advocating for sort of the, 10 out of 15 boxes or N minus whatever out of N boxes. But actually reflecting on it, the boxes do need to be ranked hierarchically.
Absolutely. There's points.
Identification and group acceptance is obviously number one. Like that's a clear governor there.
This is, by the way, I'm going to interrupt you a little bit. This is actually a thing I've thought about for English X-migration, we want to call it, is that like if you want to stay in England, you have to have like some number, maybe 10 ancestrally English families vouch for your Englishness.
Sure.
Like if
I
you have,
mean, yeah, the sponsor system is legit. And I think, you know, honestly, every country should have a sponsorship system and should have penalties associated with sponsorship.
yes,
If the person fails during the sponsorship period.
yeah, like at the very least that they cannot sponsor again for a certain set amount of time, but also like all of the legal fees.
No, they have to pay real costs. Yeah.
Well, yeah, all the legal fees, the incarceration fees, or the deportation fees, plus just the tax of the process, and then yeah, exactly. And that's kind of why I said that there's a certain level of democratization to American citizenship, right? Like how you're supposed to get along with Americans. I think this is we're starting with a better definition. I think that James Lindsay, we could just pare it down to get to what actually makes sense, or at least prioritize, because he just says a lot of shit. But yeah, self-identification and group acceptance, big one. I'm trying to I think of the most.
I think benign number station. Sorry, go ahead. Finish your point. I want to come back to benign.
No, I was going to say that.
Most recent comment.
I was going to say that you have to take this from the extremes to determine what is really important and what isn't. Like if this person had only this quality or only a few set of qualities, would they be acceptable? Right. Like, and if not, then it's a low tier, right? Like the highest tier is at the very bare minimum. This is the bar you have to go through. So yeah, definitely self-identification, group acceptance.
If you think back to your high school civics class, and this touches on Benign's point, and you look at the naturalization requirements, how long it takes, how long you have to be in the country, etc. Non-traffic misdemeanors disqualify you from applying for citizenship and qualify you for immediate deportation.
You should be able to follow the law. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking about that as a teenager, like obviously being at a stage in my life where I'm a bit of a rule breaker. I'm like, geez, that sounds harsh. And like the longer I've been on this planet and the longer I've learned, like put reflection into self-mastery is like, no, yeah, this is fair. You demonstrate antisocial behaviors willingly, you know, without mitigating circumstances. Fuck off. You don't have the necessary level of self-control to live in a non-barbaric society.
Right. Like, do we want to start editing this document to say like, here's our version, right? Core, secondary. So like,
it's going to take me a while of meditating on it.
Okay.
Let's save that for an offline homework assignment. Like I'll go through and do my own cutting and like maybe even paste into a test, like hierarchically ranked.
That'd be funny.
Identify being accepted.
That'd be fun to have this as an exam.
And present the test to like, I think it would be great to present the test to Samson and say, does this match what it takes to be an Englishman?
Right.
And then beyond that, does it match what it takes to be a Brit? So Brit is looser.
Let's at least agree on the very, very, very core stuff, right? Because I have an addition to make, right? So first off, it's the self-identification and group acceptance. Like, are you willing to be an American and have the Americans accepted you? I would throw it as a core thing, bare minimum to be considered as an American.
Yep, that's 100%. It's the disqualifier unless you do both. And like I had mentioned to you, Lost in the Pond, the YouTube creator.
Yes,
I think he hits those.
Yes, and
despite being somebody whose British and English cultural background is very dear to him and informs his ways of being and acting in the world, he both identifies as an American and gets reciprocally accepted.
I'm gonna add one thing here: is language proficiency. That's the only thing I want to
add. No. I called that one out because we don't require that one, but my God, should we?
Should you? Yes, absolutely. If you don't speak English, go fuck yourself. Like I don't.
Yeah, exactly. Like historical accident dictates the entire shape of the world. No thing in the world is not shaped by historical accident and does not have pre-rational reasons for existing. the language you use and the language that forms your thoughts, the language that forms the thoughts and barriers of the society around you, the imaginary rules that God help you if you say imaginary things don't matter. They will come down on you like a ton of bricks.
Yeah.
Historical accident or not, language is straight up a part of it.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want about it. I think it's a hard requirement, English.
Yes.
Because everything that we're going to say about what constitutes culture and pro-sociality is premised on a Sapir-Whorf hypothesis understanding of the English language.
Yes, we have an antithesis here. The antithesis being the opposite of a thesis, right? This is a nullification of a thought that you cannot understand English unless you speak English. You cannot understand an idea that was proposed in English unless you understand English. There is no, in other words, the equivalency through translation principle is not a thing. We don't believe in it. You translate the Constitution to Spanish. It doesn't mean it is not it is no longer the Constitution, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
You know what? Sorry, I'm going to give you another full tangent.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I think you know. Have you seen the William F. Buckley and Jorge Luis Borges talking about speaking English and how the English language is a far finer language than Spanish?
I have not seen that.
I'll look it up. It up. It's a treat. So William F. Buckley Jr., notorious American political commentator, long-running TV show, founder of The Atlantic. Conservatism is standing athwart history, yelling stop, which is like, okay, whatever. But he's a quintessential American. William F. Buckley Jr. was born in Mexico, and Spanish was his first language. His conversation with Borges is interesting because Borges is expressing nuances of the English language and its built-in bullshit detector between its Francophonic origins and its Anglo-Saxon words. And Borges winds up being a staunch defender of English, born in Argentina, lifelong Spanish speaker, sort of pursuant to, I've seen a lot of Borges talk and I was intrigued by his brilliance. So I've been chasing down as much of him as I can read. And having come away from several of Borges's short story collections, I can say this man is fluent in the English language at a level beyond, most natives, but like an especially talented polyglot. The language he writes in, no matter what language you are reading or listening to it in, is his own private language, which he has meticulously cultivated.
I see. Yeah, the English language, I think, is the supreme language of the world.
And there's reasons to say that aside from political dominance,
correct,
of extant language technologies, English is like hands down the best. If you're just conducting a technological analysis, it BTFOs basically every other language.
Yeah, its ability to convey ideas in a nuanced manner actually enables the field of engineering, right? Like strength versus toughness is actually a really good, like those sound the same to the uninitiated, but strength and toughness are actually antithetical opposite forces, right? Like ultimate strength would be a ceramic bowl. It doesn't scratch. It's very hard to scratch, but if you shatter it, it's going to break into 1,000 pieces. Whereas a piece of rubber is extremely tough and not very strong. You can deform it very easily, but it just returns back to its shape. That's called toughness, right? And those are engineering terms. There's a lot more than that, right? And like the difference between projection versus occultation versus transmissible, refractive, translucent, and opaque. Those are all very different things. They're not like opacity is also a dimension, right? Like transmissibility is a dimension. Reflectivity is a dimension. Refractivity is a dimension. Like these things, through the study, the English are very good about arguing over the very picayune things of life, right? They're willing to split words into pieces and decide this has to have a new term. And that vigilance of language has lent itself very well, which is, by the way, one of the reasons why I hate the modern English, and that they will not fucking make the nuances that need to be made. So you end up getting guys like Carl Benjamin turning everyone against liberalism, whereas liberalism includes right of property, free speech, and lots of other things that you actually need. Like the lack of vigilance in their language is so destructive, and it's a great example of the opposite of what their ancestors stood for. Almost all of my complaints against Westerners is simply them not living up to their ancestors. It is fucking, it's bananas to me that you guys have all this, that the Europeans have all these traditions and these amazing arts, and they're not curious of like how they came about and how they can propel them. Which, like, you could, any argument about who invented what doesn't matter to me. What matters to me is who is maintaining what. Like I worked for a company that worked in radioactive detection, right? Like so dosimeters. And it's like the only person who actually knew how the dosimeters worked was some Finnish dude who was like 65 years old. Right. And it's like no one else actually knew how it worked. The technology that was made in the last decade had become archaic and inscrutable.
No, yeah, we're so close, like moment by moment, we're so close to a 40K future, and nobody understands how close we are.
Yeah, like
I don't think YouTube lets you send links. I just shot out essentially the bibliography for this episode, the Grok prompt, the Frost poem, and the Borges video, by the way, in chat.
Private chat?
No, in the YouTube chat.
In the YouTube chat? Where is that? I don't see it in the YouTube chat.
Yeah, like I said, I don't think YouTube lets you send links, actually.
All right,
but yeah. We're
DM it to me. I'll put it in the description.
40K future.
Yeah. So the ability to maintain something, like I don't care who invented it. I mean, it's nice for your ancestors, good for them, bully for them. I'll go and pop a cork at the grave of Tycho Brahe and get proper wasted with a midget in the way that he would like. But like the current day Europeans is like, you have nothing to do with that. This is, by the way, we have to have a stream about European pride versus American pride, because I don't think we take personally the accomplishments of America that the Europeans take personally. Like we don't, when we say like we went to the moon, we're sort of thinking that of like, yeah, good for the people who are involved. We don't see that as a validating thing. Like if we go to England and like, well, we fought off this and we did that. And I'm like, some guys went to the moon. They happen to be American. I don't know. Were you there? I think I said that to a bunch of Englishmen of like talking about Agincourt. And I was like, well, wait, were you there? Why do you care?
Yeah. I mean, weird to me that you about that in the definition, in his definition of, and so does Mises in their definition of the Boer. The sort of cultural chauvinist who has done nothing to contribute himself, but is extremely grandiose and self-congratulatory on what his ancestral betters have done.
Yes. Like what I would say is like, what have you done to propel that? Like, what have you done to propagate the successes of your ancestors? Like,
well, this is a criteria that Grok didn't give is do you regard it as your moral responsibility to live up to your ancestors, but the legacy of your fellow countrymen men who have given you your patrimony?
I would love to do an AI video
as a private responsibility to be worthy of them.
I would love to do an AI video of like, I just put Vivek Ramaswamy and I'd put him as like you have a couple of different scenes. One of the scenes is he's discussing the history of the Civil War. Like he's loading a cannon, like, hello, this is Vivek Ramaswamy. Like, in 1865, and all this stuff about the Civil War. And then he goes on, he's like actually fighting a real war, right? Like he's storming. It's like, is this guy not an American or what? If I said that this dude is some Indian dude and he's fighting for America and doing all his American things, like, is he American or not? because right now what I'm doing is I'm paring down. This is what Trump does. I think
I will add a caveat, which is as each shot goes on in this montage, it needs to zoom out and reveal that he's walking around barefoot.
Hey man, whatever, barefoot. Was it Barefoot Joe Jackson or something like that, a baseball player? The thing I have to say is that the draping themselves in glory. I'm going to bring this up here. The analogy I use is, imagine the grandson of a war hero walking into a tavern with his grandfather's war medals and expecting like a pat on the back for them. I was like, that would be disgusting, wouldn't it? That'd be awful. I was like, but why is that okay at a national standpoint? It's like, what have you done to deserve the honor of your ancestors?
That's one of the reasons why, even though we have all these cultural conflicts with the heirs of the Massachusetts Bay Puritan culture, why I read what they say about themselves and what they accomplished, and I'm like, God bless you, you're my countrymen. Is they do things for the honor and glory of God, and I believe them.
What do you mean, like the wokists?
No. Our Puritan ancestors.
Oh yeah.
Even though they sowed the seeds, which are coming back to us now, like I'm proud of them.
Right. Exactly.
Even though I think they're like lunatics, like God damn.
Well, being a lunatic is part of being an American. Part of being an American, I think,
super duper.
Part of being an American is being an absolute fucking zealot.
Yeah, batshit insane.
Yeah, batshit crazy. Americans go batshit. There's all the best Americans are crazy, and they're disruptive. Yeah, exactly. So we're at the 3-hour mark. I think we're going to start winding it down here. I appreciate you guys participating.
Yeah, this is a really good chat and a really good discussion.
Yeah, very good. I want you guys, if in the comments you want to write your own thesis of what an American is, I would love to hear it, because I also want to know. We're going to contrast this with what a British person is, right? Absolutely, our pleasure as well. Thank you so much. Like we're trying to.
I think we've laid a great foundation for a conversation with Samson, because I guarantee you he has strong opinions on this.
Let's do our homework. What is an American? And then we're going to allow Samson to live create what is a British. And we're going to give him access to this entire list, because what this entire list is like, what is a national? Allow him to add stuff. And then he can come up with what is British, right? Like, must be able to drink. I think the not abolitionists, the prohibitionists would have a word with you on this one, because there was a part where Americans were not supposed to drink whatsoever. But yes, bacon cheeseburger. Add to that, shoot a communist. But I was going to change with your age. Yes, going batshit for what we believe in is absolutely part of it. And I think a lot of what Americans see in England is like this lack of dedication to going batshit. Because I don't know what an Englishman is, but at least one of those things one of the core tenets of what an Englishman is has been violated. So we're just waiting on, like, you guys gonna go nuts yet or what? Like, Americans set themselves on fire for stupid shit. It's like
you were the much more mild out of your debate with Luna, and you're the one that's really like, you guys should have chimped a long time ago.
Well, the thing, exactly. The thing is,
I mean, she's pro chimping, but I think her threshold for chimping is way too far.
When you really put it to her, and I'm not going to speak for her, but like when you really put it to her, the threshold for chimping is pretty low. Chimping as an abstract so I think she thinks of chimping as an abstract concept. I think of it as a very concrete concept. It was like, for me, chimping is like I have set myself on fire and I'm running into a mosque and hugging the closest imam, and that's just how it's going to be. It's like that's full on chimp. And then like a bunch of people,
Chimping is not a mild disagreement. Chimping is like full on babies on spikes.
Yeah, it's like aluminum bat to the skull makes Inglorious Bastards look like Barney. Yeah, exactly. Like, so she's, I don't know, maybe she has a different idea. I'd love to see what that looks like. Not on fucking YouTube, that's for sure. Maybe a Rumble. Maybe we'll do a Rumble stream.
Yeah. Rumble might be a little
Yeah.
The thing is history is made of events that would make even the most generous free speech era TOS requirements blush.
Yeah, all right, yeah. So Benign is actually saying the flag burning is disgusting. I actually agree with that. That's actually an interesting point because the flag represents a people, right? Now,
yeah.
I don't think the trans flag represents the people because I don't believe in trans people.
Wait. So
yeah.
I have a quick one on this.
Yeah, go for it, man. Floor is yours.
So I think it's an unconcluded point. Virtue ethics is actually the real ethics. It's the ethics one should look up and aspire to. It's the moral foundation for an individual life. Deontological ethics looks like bullshit in comparison, but deontological ethics is what you have to resort to when virtue ethics fails, i.e. when people are unwilling or unable to live up to being virtuously. You need a fallback position of hard rules that force people to be good when they're unwilling to.
Yeah.
The flag burning is disgusting because it fails virtue ethics tests. Should it fail deontological tests? Probably not, unless it's committed in flagrant opposition to virtue ethics and from an anti-virtuous perspective, like down with virtue, destruction of virtue.
I'm gonna be an absolute. Go. Sorry. Go ahead and finish.
It's the rare area where virtue ethics is far where deontological ethics needs to be far more permissive than virtue ethics. But boy, is it a mess. I mean, right. so I'm both with and against at the same time, just depending on how you ask the question.
It'd be so fun if there was a protest, like a big right-wing protest, where it's like we just have a big board, and it's what it is. It's the board is formed as a tier list, and we're just like putting flags on tier list, and just people like cheer, and I'm like moving up a little bit, like with the American flag, and I put it on S tier, and like yeah, and you see like Hong Kong is like B tier, China's like D tier, sort of thing. Like we're not even gonna burn it. We don't want you destroyed, but we're gonna tell you what we think about you. Like you're a D tier, F tier. Nation, you suck, and like you allow people to come out to the microphone and like advocate, and you just hear boos and cheers. That would be the most American thing ever. Americans are also very pro-conflict. I've also found we are so pro-conflict. We'd rather burn this nation down than like agree to disagree. I don't know. There's some things that we go absolutely ham over. Luckily, we all have our own backyards. Land ownership is a thing, so we tend to temper ourselves and be like, all right, we're going to take our ball and go home. But we tend to disagree quite a bit. Appalachia is quite fascinating, and they will join in. They oppose wars before they start, but they will join whatever war we join. There's no moderating thing. They just like a good war, but they don't like to start them. So
they're like the Scots.
They are the Scots.
Yeah, they are the Scots.
They're literally Scotsmen. It's too funny.
It's funny that they serve the same function in both empires.
Yeah, it's
the absolutely relentless soldier class.
Yeah. The soldier farmer. They don't do much else. Like I know. By the way, in my area, I know Appalachians.
Wait. Does that mean the Appalachians are the Jews of Americans?
Yeah. Well,
because their ancestral discipline is war.
The thing is, the people who have warrior class be the fundamental unit of their citizens is simply a class that understands third world, like chaotic nature, right?
Like, it's also a class that it's also an ethnic group and a class that understands what it takes to rule, because just like Brahmin is sort of a graduation on warrior, so is warrior poet.
Well, yeah, and actually Japan had to do a lot of work to transition their warrior class out of being warriors. We should talk about this some other time, but like I have a theory that mercantile classes are just simply more effective with maybe the combination of the technological class.
Yeah, we have to
Yeah.
God, but
When did the Warriors?
I was gonna say we have reading to do, but honestly, what it probably should be, because sometimes I feel like your court magician to the court magician to your Joe Rogan Khanate. I have some condensing to do of Shibumi and the Diamond Age. You should still read the Diamond Age. Shibumi is an eminently skippable novel. It plays with interesting ideas.
That's
in
the
a
one
really
with
disappointing execution.
Oh, okay.
But I'll have to do some condensing on that because there's some deep territory there.
I think we're going to get into these different wars, the Boshin Wars, the Japanese Wars. I understand because I played Total War Shogun. Yes, we will get into this. I think it's important because, by the way, I have a 9-layer stratification of society, whereas most people, especially Academic Agent, has the 3-layer one. Like, are you a warrior, merchant, or peasant? I was like, no, there's a lot of layers inside because I was trying to make the topography of the American culture war. And I don't know if I've succeeded. And I would love scrutiny. I'm going to start calling.
That's super interesting.
Yeah,
it's also modern, and one of the things is the world changes shape all the time. And the modern period is where the world changed shape like every 6 minutes and went insane.
And the thing is, the modern world changes as a musical chairs, right? So I try to nail down what are the constants and how do they change place, because you're going to have the reshuffling of the orders. So, okay, what is a Brit? And I'm going to put, I can remember this 9 layers of Civ. I tried to match
something we never got to, but swore we would at the start is what is post-liberalism? Because I think we've laid out really thoroughly what is an American, or at least thoroughly enough that one can make sense of it. What we have not done is combat the Lindsayist jihad, which I think is something that absolutely needs to be opposed. And the WTF moment is an American is somebody who is classical liberal, ... and opposes all post-liberal. Okay, what you said was crazy in the first place, but you just level jumped here.
That's interesting.
You went to insanity, and we really need to deal with this.
By the way, I'm okay. Depending on the amount of research necessary, I'm okay with doing these shows twice a week. I think we talked about having a bit of a banter on Sunday. I'm okay with that. So what we want to do is what the cool thing about Sunday.
I'm out of my main travel competitive season, so I'm much more amenable to.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
Forward.
Well, the thing is, we can have a what is a Brit during daylight hours on a weekend, right? So Samson can join us more easily.
Yeah.
I'll join. Inshallah.
Oh, benign numbers.
Yeah, that's too funny. Glory to Libertad, the United Liberal Front versus the Liberated United Front. May the war ever continue.
Yeah,
that's super funny, fucking funny. I had a lot of funny pictures. All right, cool. Benign, you're not going to miss anything if you leave right now. Okay, I'm just going to bullshit now. Okay, cool. So we're going to have what is a Brit? Hopefully on the weekend. I'll message Samson and see if he's okay with that.
Let's kick this one to behind closed doors, because I think we've run through our juice.
Our juice and jeets are all we used up. All right, see you guys later. Bye.
Bye. Traditional Queen wave. Goodbye, everybody.
Ooh.